Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Mint Street Mondays, brought to you by the One Carolina Show. I am your host, John Farmer. I appreciate you guys being here with me this morning. Give yourselves a hand. We have finally made it through the draft. A lot of hard work, y'all. A lot of hard work. Salute to the team, man. You know, we got to give the team, the scouts, everybody, the facility coordinators, everyone, man. What an experience. What an experience. And, you know, I could not go any further without giving a shout out to my faithful, the OCs. Give yourselves a hand. Yes, indeed. We appreciate you guys being here with me this morning. My faithful, I see some of y'all in the chat already. If you want to join the OCs, the original cats, for $1.99 per month to support the channel, we appreciate it so much. It means so much to us and powers everything that we do over here to keep this thing going and moving. So salute to y'all this morning. I see some of you guys already in the chat, and I'll acknowledge and get to you guys in just a second. But just wanted to start with thankfulness. Like I said, man, you know, I'm just excited that we made it through this period. And I feel like the Carolina Panthers are better today than they were yesterday. Much better today than they were yesterday. And we're going to break it all down. Had a chance to stream the first day of the draft. And I'll be honest, I had plans to do like a whole like weekend of it. But, man, I was beat. I was absolutely beat between work and content. It was just time for me to rest. And so that's what I did. I did tweet some and, you know, kind of got into community a bit in that perspective. But, you know, for the most part, man, I just rested. And so I'm fully charged, ready to have a really great show today. Brad, my co-host, Invisible Brad, will be on with us very soon. He's starting, you know, pretty early with us today because we got a lot to cover. It's going to be a loaded show, maybe a long show, longer than we normally do. But that's okay because I know I got the best of y'all with me. Rob Blake, appreciate you for coming out on Thursday, as well as Steve, J-Rock, my man from the 828 hometown. I appreciate you as well, man. Odie McVerdy, yes, sir. T. Thompson, what's good? Ghost Daddy, D. Cash, Tim Bullock, Willie Smith. Hadn't seen you in a bit, man. Diesel Gaming, he said, let me see this real quick. He says, before you even say anything, 7th round pick Jackson Kawatch is the steal of the draft. If you haven't yet, get a chance and watch the kid's tape. This kid might be him, might be the one. You know, I ain't gonna lie. I'm excited about him too, my friend, but we'll get to it. Kel Senior 1007 said, I can see 3 of our picks starting day one. What's good? Rod Walk. What's good? Chris Dillard. Hollywood Goes Global, my man, wrenched up. Shout out to everybody that showed up today, this morning, the faithful. And look, we're going to get to it, man. I'm sure there'll be more people. Make sure to smash that like button. It's the only thing that we really ask. Obviously, if you want to join the show, $1.99 per month to join as a member, but smash the like just to, you know, support the show. Anyway, let's get started. So I saw Joe Clarity, one of my regulars, had posted a comment. What's good, Miss Douglas? Had posted a comment and was like, and Miss Douglas, by the way, I got your wrench coming. I just been charged to my head, not my heart. Just been mad busy, but it's coming. Joe Clarity asked a question. You know, we'll just get the elephant out of the room. I made a prediction, and boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong. Mustached up, you know, the whole thing about Jacob Rodriguez becoming a Carolina Panther, and I was dead wrong. But you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm not mad about it. I do still think that there's room to improve at the linebacker spot. But like my gentleman just mentioned a minute ago, I do like what they did in the 7th round. And I think this draft had meaning in so many different ways. It's so multi-layered. And we're going to get into it. So was I upset about the J-Rod pick in the beginning of, you know, seeing him there and like, you know, falling to the Dolphins at what, like, I think 46, 49, something like that. Something around that area. Of course, you know, because it's somebody that I was really interested in. But when I look at the strategy of the Panthers and what I love more than anything, and I said this, you know, even when I made the prediction of what smart franchises do. Smart franchises don't like react viscerally. I know some people thought, and I saw this kind of, you know, floating out there, like, man, they, you know, overreacted with the move up for Lee Hunter or whatever like that. I don't think that at all. And I don't think it was a reaction to them not getting Jacob Rodriguez, because I think if they really wanted Jake, they could have got him. You know, you could have took him at 19 if you really wanted him. He fell out of the first round, so that was a double prediction that I got wrong. But yeah, I mean, you could have moved up a little bit further. I'm sure that there's a team that may have, you know, allowed that to happen. I really don't think that they were like, I think it was like, you know what, if he just happens to be here, then, maybe this is an opportunity for us to, take the next succession of what could be a great, linebacker for us. But I don't think it was like a do or die situation. Like, oh, we got to have him. Right. So I'm glad how things played out. But in the beginning, yes, I can't lie that I did, I felt the way. I ain't gonna lie, man. But either way, shout out to my man Joe Clarity already with the super chat. He said, "What is your feelings on missing out, J-Rod?" Just answering it. I don't feel good about it, but at the same time, like, I feel like how Lloyd felt whenever Harry sold the dog truck, and then he comes back up with a scooter, and he's like, "You go do something so dumb like that, but then you totally redeem yourself." Nah, but no, seriously, I'm not like, when you make a prediction, you don't want to look like a buffoon like that, like I did. Like, I look like an absolute idiot, right? That said, past the idiot point, would I have liked to have had Jacob Rodriguez? Yes. But I'm still thrilled with what they were able to do. And I think they made some very, very smart moves. Some very smart moves. One of those being this. The reaction to pick 19, Monroe Freeling. This was an incredibly smart move. For multifaceted reasons, obviously. You've got a left tackle who likely would be on the brink of being paid, and Ike Mekwonu, who's hurt. You've got a left tackle that you brought in that you're paying $4 million to, right? Excuse me, I may be wrong on the number, but the Walker signing. Correct me on the math in the chat. I'm terrible with these kind of things. But the point is that you bring in what could be, now, this might be a stretch, right? So I don't want to go too far with this. But I will say, I'm very intrigued by this guy. I really am. Because I think that Monroe Freeling could possibly be one of the better left tackles that you've had in quite some time, if what he is checks out, right? So we don't have a ton of starts here, 18 starts. But the size, the 6'7", let's get out of the way, 34-inch arms, a 4.93 40-yard dash for a guy that size is insane. It is absolutely insane. His athletic profile is off the charts. He's a very smart football player. You could, if he hits the way that I think that they think he'll hit, you've just shored up your left tackle position possibly for the next 10 years. Because now you've got a guy who will go definitely to a second contract, and you can kick down the road having to pay that position when you have so much money on this offensive line. And you have to get cheaper, right? So that's a big part of this as well. You've got to find a way to get cheaper. Well, this is how you do it. Cap hits are going to start happening. I think Taylor Moton's cap hit next year is like $27 million or something like that, right? So you've got money that needs to be reallocated. And I think this entire draft, like when you look from the top to the bottom of this draft, this is exactly what they did. And they found positional value doing it. That's what makes this draft so good to me, right? Now we'll grade each individual grade, per pick, but man, this, again, I'm not going to say this is going to be one of the best drafts, but I said something to Brad over the phone that I think it could be one of the most important. I do think this could be one of the most important drafts that the Carolina Panthers have had, really in the franchise's history, because what this will do is start to set a trend for how you draft, especially when you hear things like this. So I'm going to bring this up now. I was going to bring it up later, but I thought this was fascinating. So there's this big conversation going on around right now about consensus picks and things like that, draft boards. And Lance Zierlein had offered his 2 cents because there was a big argument between Bucky Brooks and a whole bunch of other people about these consensus, draft boards and stuff like that. And, some people saying that there are consensus boards, some people saying it's ridiculous that there shouldn't be. But I do find this fascinating. He said, I've seen a lot of talk about consensus boards in the draft this year. I can tell you that I had multiple conversations after day 2, and then again after the draft was over, with teams who thought it was the Wild West this year. I could not agree more, right? And I'm not even a draft expert, but there was just something about this draft that looked so different to me. We'll get around to this, but like when we picked Sam Hec, which, by the way, I might have looked like an idiot in another place, but I am 2 for 2. Like, okay, I didn't pick the exact pick that we would pick Sam Hec, but this is the second year in a row that I've had a player that I've picked that in my mocks multiple times that we did pick. So I feel good about that. That said, so you could listen. I'm gonna pull the audio and we'll listen to Sam, and he came out and clarified it, about being upset about his draft position. But you could have never, like, going into this draft, you would have never been able to tell me that Sam Hec would have been a 5th rounder. Never been able to convince me of that, right? Especially because of the need. My goodness, Tyler Linderbaum got the big contract, and then everything else just fell off the cliff. So it's not like you got this run of incredible centers in the NFL right now. So it was a shock to me that, he was still there available. But he says, I think one of the things happening is that there are players going back to college now because of the money available that would have gone 2nd through 4th round. With all those players out of the draft pool, there's an extreme variance that is developing. Like freaking Avengers. I would expect this to continue on to some degree, but this was also a really funky draft in terms of the board available to teams. Agreed. And then this is a gentleman that was talking about Howie Roseman and how he approaches the draft. And to be honest with you, when I look at Dan Morgan's viewpoint, and it's not just him, from the scouts, the one thing I love this, how they got the scouts involved. I thought that was, really amazing. I love seeing what this team is doing in terms of like how they are just unilaterally using all of their resources to make sure they make the right decision. Like there's not like one person at the top, like obviously, and Dan did say this the other day, the ultimate decision does come down to me, right? And of course it should, right? From a hierarchy perspective. But it's not like a beating my chest telling you like, hey, nah, we ain't doing that. Sometimes you might have to be a little firm on that. If you got somebody like me in the room and I'm like, J-Rod, he's like, nah, here's a better value here. And you got another voice to pair with that to tell me the same thing, then it's like, okay, now you got to get on board. But it's not like I'm trying to big dog everybody. Like, hey, y'all's opinions don't matter. I'm going this way because it's me, Like, and the proof of that is them putting the scouts out there to be able to say their piece about their scouting and everything leading up to the players that we picked. I thought that was really incredible. And teams don't do that. Like you will hear scouts out there talking, but it's usually like you got to go find them on like channels like ours, draft nerds and people like that go out and try to find this information. It's not something that teams typically do, especially right there in the heat of the draft when the media availability is so like big. So to put your people out there and let them like, talk about the conclusions that they drew to get to the players that they got, I thought that was incredible. And I think it just speaks to what this team is doing in terms of their, unilateral approach to scouting and eventually drafting and, procuring players. But this, to kind of build on what this gentleman was saying about the NIL situation, we'll listen to this real quick.
I talked to an NFL scout last week, and I think he told me the same thing last year, but last year it was like rounds 6 and 7. Now it's rounds 4 through 7. What do I mean? Last year, rounds 6 through 7 wiped out from NIL. This year, rounds 4 through 7 wiped out from NIL. So as you watch the draft or hear about the draft on Saturday, rounds 4 through 7, know that NFL scouts are looking at a crop of players that is weakened significantly by NIL. In other words, a lot of the players that would be 4th to 7th round picks have chosen to stay in school rather than go to the draft. A lot. And the reason is money. Think about what I'm saying and let that sink in. The reason is money in college versus the NFL. If you're a low round NFL draft pick, you get a bonus, a couple $100,000 in the lowest rounds, maybe $400,000 to $500,000 in the 4th to 5th round, and then a salary if you make the team, which is nothing guaranteed. And if you're a low round pick, making the team is about a 50-50 proposition at the bottom of the draft. If you're a 3rd or 4th round, sure, you're going to make the team, or certainly a 3rd round. But players are choosing to go to college where they don't have to make the team. That's already done, and they have relatively guaranteed earnings in NIL.
I thought that was a fascinating perspective that kind of added on to all of this conversation that we're seeing around these players in this draft and the draft pool, which is another reason why I believe the Monroe Freeling pick makes a lot of sense. Like, I've seen some suggest that it might be a reach. I don't know that I would agree with that. And the reason is because, one, again, you are betting on upside here, right? Because of the limited amount of starts. But you don't necessarily, you did yourself a huge favor when you signed Walker, because if he's not ready yet, even though I think, look, I'm of the mindset after watching what I seen, I mean, seeing this guy take on, a blitz here and then picking up his own protection and then jumping back over it. It's like, this kid gets it. And he's a freaking athlete and he loves ball. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he beats out Walker in camp and he's the guy. It wouldn't shock me at all. Would not shock me at all. But let's bring in our co-host with the mostest, my man, the invisible one, Bradford, here with us this morning. How you doing, brother, after this amazing NFL draft that we had?
Oh, man, I'm hyped. As far as turned up, other than a Super Bowl type thing, draft always gets you excited. And, man, we had a good one.
Trench warfare.
Dive in, jump on it.
Yes, sir. Trench warfare to jump right out there, man. So, Bradford, many people don't know, you were once a decorated high school offensive lineman who went on to play for the Appalachian State University. And, I could tell your excitement because Monroe was one of the guys that you talked about. But I gotta give you your flowers, man. We're going to give Brad a round of applause because Brad was on the Blake Miller train way back when we were talking about, draft prospects. And to see him, if I'm not mistaken, Brad, wasn't he one of the first tackles taken off? Well, not the first, but he was a high tackle taken off the board. Like,
yeah, he was taking a couple picks before us by Detroit.
Yes, and
not in the third round, like it was, so eloquently put that he was third round talent.
Right, and there were a lot of people. Look, that's why I'm giving you your flowers, man. Take a bow because look, you were high on this kid when so many people were not. Right, and and granted, could it be that they, I'm not going to say they overdrafted him because I never like to say that, right? Because you don't know for at least 2 years, 3 years max, right? If they did or not. But, hey, regardless, take a bow.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. All right. So, getting to it. I know that you were ecstatic when this pick was made. Of course, in my initial lead up to the pick being made, of course, I made my bold prediction that didn't come true. But I do think it is the right move to make. I have two questions. Number one, and we'll start them piece by piece. What are your initial thoughts on Monroe Freeling as a left tackle for the Carolina Panthers?
Well, I'm, super excited because, one, you look at the intangibles as far as just, raw athleticism. The kid's a really, really good athlete, which, ties into the fact that he's going to have to be stopping elite athletes from getting to the quarterback. Even the small stuff like his mother being a yoga instructor, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of combo blocks in college, which as an offensive lineman, like y'all got to understand how hard this is to double down on a defensive tackle and then to kick out a linebacker in the same play. Two people are blocked by one person. It's just can't ask for any kind of better play as far as offensive line's concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about some of the guys that went before, one of the big, rumors was that this was one of the kids that the Cleveland Browns was looking at. And, they decided to trade back. And they still ended up going with Magoa out of Miami.
Francis. Maui. No, he went to out of Miami. Oh yeah, Francis Maui. Yeah.
Right. But he played right tackle in college. You know what I'm saying? And some people think he's a guard in the NFL. You had Spano. He played right tackle in college, and some people think he's a guard in the NFL because of his short arms. Blake Miller, he played right tackle in college, and many people felt like he wasn't as good as Freeland. You know what I mean? Proctor, he was a true left tackle, the guy from Alabama. But, his ability to handle, the quick edge players, it's kind of worrisome for a lot of the scouts. Freeland, man, he's a true left tackle. You know what I mean? And like his big thing, his pass protection. You know, you have a lot of guys that struggle initially, hand placement, those different things that they've got to, learn and get better at, their kickback, all that. But like this kid does that extremely well from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And even if he, does have to start, I feel like we can deal with, his growing pains. I don't know if he'll beat out Walker, but you definitely know he'll get a chance to play.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things, it's like, he has a real high ceiling because he's young. Think of it as, and I was talking to one of my friends the other day. I mean, you think of it as Trey Turner. We took Trey Turner. He was young. He was ready to play. There were some growing pains, but he ended up becoming an All-Pro.
Indeed, I think his closest comp right now is Ronnie Stanley, who was a Pro Bowler and All Pro. Who has been an All Pro. And so that was the first question as far as the player himself. The other is the positional value. When you think about where we are in terms of the cap hits that are on the way, that could be there with like Taylor Moton, the Ike Ekwonu injury, and the Walker 1-year deal. Where do you rate this as far as like a grade based on the positional value? Like where would you grade this pick just based on that alone?
I mean, to get this guy at this pick with the the concerns that we talked about with Timo aging, with Icky being hurt, with Walker on a 1-year deal. I mean, it's got to be an A+. I mean, because for most people, a lot of people, he was 1 or 2, the second tackle that was supposed to go off the board, and we got him at 19.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to go A. I'm not going to go plus. The only reason I'm not going to go plus is just because of the starts. But that doesn't scare me though, like because you're not. This isn't. Hey, I need a wide receiver, so I'm going to take a developmental receiver and try to throw him in right away in the event of an injury. You know what I'm saying? This is more. We can slow play this, and you've already. I mean, look, the kid's got 37. Like he's played in 37 games, but he started 18. Where you start is important. We talked about this last year with Princely Umamuelu. Playing in the SEC and having, what do you have, 13 sacks? Something like that? 13, 14 sacks? It was something, it was pretty substantial. Mm-hmm. To do that in that conference for that team, that's going to translate, right? So it is important. And also, the other thing is not a quarterback. With quarterbacks, there's so much more to learn and so much more on your plate that this wouldn't be, well, Trey Lance only had, 15 starts, 16 starts or whatever like that. Like, nah, it's, you've got guys, man. There's guys who played offensive line that, like, there was I can't remember, maybe it was San Francisco. They drafted a kid that I think they're going to try to play offense or defense. And I could be wrong on the team. This kid never even played a snap of football. He's just an athletic freak. You know what I'm saying? And so, they're giving him a chance based off of that. Man, people come off the street every day and play, offensive line, defensive line, or whatever, who didn't really even play high school football and go on to be really successful. So I don't think that the snap count for a guy that plays the line is as big a deal as it would be if it was like either a skill position or a quarterback. So I can live with that. But I am going to give it an A just because of that alone, right? And I feel like that's fair.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and, he addressed that. He said, even though I didn't have starts, I played in a number of games, especially at swing tackle. He said, so I've got, experience at right tackle and left tackle. But it's also one of those things, I mean, look at where he plays at, man. I mean, Georgia stockpiles talent every single year.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to wait your turn.
That's right.
If the guy in front of you is a future All-Pro and, he's recruited 2 years before you, first 2 years, you're not going to get to play.
That's a good point. So salute to Monroe Freeling. We're going to give this a collective. Brad gives it an A+. I'm giving it an A, but it's still a big-time grade. Again, another one of those drafts where Dan and company, I don't want to just say Dan Morgan because, yes, Dan Morgan does pull the trigger. He is the face of all of this. but just a collective great effort. So this grade is going to be an A+. All right, moving right along. Now we're going to go to picks 2 through 4. This is where it's going to get exciting. So I'll be honest with you, man. When we moved up, I didn't know which way we were going to go when we moved up, but I was super excited to see which way we would. And boy, was I gassed when we made the pick at 49. Lee Hunter, defensive tackle from Texas Tech. Brad, this guy is a dog, an absolute dog. Defensive tackle, nose tackle on the #1 run defense in college football for Texas Tech. Just let that sink in. Not Ohio State, not Alabama, not Florida, none of the big-time SEC schools, for Texas Tech, right? So a lot of the work that he was doing allowed guys like David Bailey to get drafted, allowed guys like Jacob Rodriguez to be able to eat and not have to worry about getting mauled by guards and centers or tackles or anything like that. So this dude, man, look, good luck running on the Carolina Panthers. That's all I'm going to say. Derek Brown, him, and Bobby, how do you run? Something that you mentioned, and I'm going to let you go a little bit deeper on this because we're going to go pick by pick. You mentioned how if he keeps his pads low, this kid could be virtually unblockable. Go a little bit deeper on that.
Well, I mean, one, getting into a NFL, weight room and the NFL condition, I think he's one of those guys that just got by on brute strength. But in him just getting by on like brute strength, I mean, the kid was virtually unblockable in practices at the Senior Bowl. You had some people worried, like, man, is he big enough to play his nose tackle? And I'm like, the kid weighs 320 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, speaking of work, one of the, first calls he got after his initial draft call was from Derek Brown. And he was like, hey, man, be ready to work. And we know what kind of work that guy puts in. You know what I'm saying? He's such a, he has such a thick, powerful base. I've heard on other podcasts, and people are getting a little too comfortable saying it now. But, when they talk about, when they got the big round caboose and the defensive tackle, that's things they like to see because those guys are hard to move. But the kid has a very powerful base. And like the thing that just kind of blew my mind is he has a 6'9" wingspan. So, I mean, his ability to engage blockers and to wrap players up as they run by. I mean, we haven't seen this kind of duo since 2014, 2015 with Star and KK. And people, if you can remember, that's when people couldn't run on us at all, little bit. Because if they were to get through that, you had TD and Luke diagnosing the play so quick, teams really struggle to move the ball on the ground. And I mean, as good as, these new offenses are, NFL quarterbacks, when you make a team one-dimensional, passing or running otherwise, when you stop the run first and make them one-dimensional in the pass game, it is very hard to move the ball.
Yes. One of my biggest, and it's not, look, from his perspective, it's not just that. If I'm not mistaken, 7 sacks throughout his college career. It's not just the run defense. It's the pressures as well, right? So now this is going to create more opportunities for your backfield, right? Now, Carolina plays more cover 3 zone than anybody in football, meaning that, as we always talk about, rush 4 and not much more, right? So it is kind of a, you want the best of your best up front. Dare I say that he could develop to be what we were so trying to achieve to get in Milton, right? Because I think that with Derek Brown's tutelage, and he's so raw a prospect, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, raw in terms of like what he can develop into. You talked about like the makeup, the physical makeup. That's going to increase with just your training and nutrition and all these different type of things that you have at your disposal. The thing that you can't teach, though, man, there was a clip of him at the Senior Bowl, one-on-one rep or whatever, may not have necessarily won the rep, but once he got to the backfield, ragdoll the dude, right? Now, granted, you don't need to be hitting people when you don't have you got on pads and helmets, but it ain't that type of party. but I really just love the nastiness. And you saw that all over his film. And we talked about this, man, like over the years, man, I remember JC came out, said what he said about, was it Mike Evans? Who were we playing? And they caught him on the hot mic, and he was saying, like, it might have been Atlanta. I think, it was Atlanta. I think it was Drake London. And they caught him on the hot mic, and he's like, man, he can't do nothing. I got him strapped up, blah, 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 whatever. And he kind of came out and was like, oh, man, you know, I ain't trying to, like, you know, because he didn't want to, like, have that type of persona. I'm like, nah, dog, we need that. We need that. This is one of those kind of guys. And it's not just him. You got a couple of guys in this draft that are like this. But I was actually pleasantly surprised that he ended up right here. Now, I know that you and I had talked about Caden McDonald, someone that we liked, you know, a lot, to be able to kind of replace Ashawn Robinson, who has been productive, you know, for us for the past couple of years. And, you know, you lose him, so you kind of have to be able to put somebody in that position. I think he fills this position, you know, like by far and away. So I was really thrilled about this pick at pick 49. Now, any last words on Lee Hunter before we move on to the next one?
Well, I mean, you know, they kind of tried to clown him because he had a, you know, poor broad jump and a vertical, and it's kind of like, this is the kind of things where you get into the nitpick nature of it, and you start saying like, oh, so we're going to, you know, razz on a defensive tackle who doesn't have a high vertical. And, you know, I was listening to a guy talk about the 2011 draft a few days ago, and he was talking about how, like, you know, a guy like J.J. Watt, you know, they had at Wisconsin, they had a drill, like a shooting drill, you know, on the basketball court. It just kind of, you know, get the guys acclimated to one another and, you know, promote camaraderie. And he said that J.J. Watt was rebounding for him. He kept the rebound and just dunks it back in flip-flops. And it's like, wow, you know, this guy was a super great athlete. Mm-hmm. But when you look at this guy's stats, man, his ranks, this is, you know, amongst all defensive tackles in college football since 2023, 146 tackles, that's number one. 38 tackles for loss or no gain, that's number one. 81 run stops, you guessed it, number one. And 75 quarterback pressures, that was second. You can throw all that other stuff out of the window if you ask me.
Definitely.
And it showed up, I mean, the number one defense in college football.
Yep. Yeah.
So
talk heavy. I'm trying to tell you, this is going to be interesting. I want to acknowledge some people in the chat. Shout out to my man, What's Up, Doug, in the building. Shout out to JP Tate. Also, I see my man Dylan from Panther Fans Only in the building. Shout out to Sean McCrary, D Cash. I see y'all, man. I appreciate y'all showing up this morning. Y'all just as excited as we are. Now, we ain't doing no film today, man. Like, no film. It's just talk today. Like, I think, you know, this is where I'm probably going to bring back the ball don't lie and go a little bit deeper into that. Plus, I'm not the film expert. That's why I bring on Real Ball Watcher. That's what he do. You know what I'm saying? Who is on fire right now. And I love it because, you know, a lot of things he called. Let's go into the next one. Chris Brazell II, when he was on with me this past Thursday, he mentioned something that absolutely came true. As a matter of fact, Dave Canales, who was absolutely glowing about this kid whenever they talked, you know, post-draft and had the press conferences, and he talked about how Chris Brazell is going to be someone that will create tons of space for your other receivers because of his ability to take the top off the defense. Now, I know that some people had a little bit of apprehension, especially when you think about guys like that play in that Josh Heupel offense, right? Jalen Hyatt is one that, you know, comes to mind. The Dotson kid is another one that comes to mind. And like when you play on the outside perimeter there, you're basically running like, you know, one or two routes, right? Now, granted, you do have a mixed bag, but the primary is just being a field stretcher when you're tall. Like Josh Heupel has a type, right? And he goes after these guys, you know, to bring them into Tennessee from other places because they kind of fit what he does offensively. Now, unfortunately, if you're a guy that has more to if you got a bag, as they like to say in basketball, you got a bag, you are going to be held to the standard of two things. Number one, those who came before you, right? Look at the wide receivers that have come out of LSU. Odell Beckham, Brian Thomas Jr., Justin Jefferson, all these guys. Even Terrace Marshall Jr. You could make an argument when we drafted Terrace Marshall, we did it on the strength of what we've seen LSU receivers develop into over the years, right? Well, the same thing happens when you have guys like Jalen Hyatt come out who kind of fit the archetype, tall, can run, stretch the field, all that kind of stuff. Chris Brazell is going to get thrown into that same kind of mix. He is not that at all. Really, if you want to know who this kid is, you have to go watch his tape at Tulane because he can do it all, right? And I feel like you could say this about a couple of different people in this draft. We might look back 2 or 3 years from now, Brad, and this kid be one of the best players of this entire draft, right? Because of how they plan on using him and what he can do to help others in this offense. I got to be honest with you, and we're going to grade the Lee Hunter pick because I kind of skipped past that. But Chris Brazell is one of the players that I am absolutely stoked about. What say you?
Man, dude, when you turn the film on and you just see this kid running by people, being that his quarterback Aguilar played at Appalachian before he played at Tennessee. I think he went to UCLA, and they had the whole mix-up with the Nico situation. The guy from Tennessee ended up going to UCLA. It's kind of like they traded quarterbacks. It was real weird. Mm-hmm. But the guy really had some problems with ball placement. And you see in his film, I mean, there are a lot of plays where he's just absolutely blown by the coverage, and he's got to turn around and make a circus catch, and he does it effortlessly. You know what I mean? I mean, he has been pigeonholed, into this whole Tennessee Hyatt and, a lot of these guys failing. But, I mean, the kid's able to succeed, in any kind of basically scheme he needs to. You know what I mean? And talking to some Tennessee fans, I mean, they were like, that only run a couple of routes. That narrative's not correct anymore. They said after they got beat by Ohio State in 2024, Heupel changed the offense. He ran a more NFL style, pro offense. And that was because the, defensive coordinators were just keying in on that widespread route choice concept thing he was running his first 4 years. Because really that's what it was. Like if they couldn't run by you, you could put a umbrella over, all of their go routes, and they really didn't have anything in the intermediate range. And you can see by watching his tape that the kid, comeback routes, crossing routes, deep posts, deep flag routes, which is, basically 10, 15 yards and then cut towards the sideline. People will kindly remember it to the one that Stink was getting mad at because Excel stepped out of bounds. I knew that's where you were going. But man, dude, real NFL production, man, 1,000 yards receiving, and he had 9 touchdowns, man. That led the SEC. You know what I mean? And I really like, because one thing you like guys that want to be here. I know that's with the NIL, era we're in. A lot of people are becoming disenfranchised because, one, they're dissolving conferences. I mean, the ACC's got 2 teams from the West Coast in it, in UCLA and Stanford now, and it's just not UCLA, but Cal and Stanford.
Cal and Stanford, yeah.
And but this guy, I mean, he was quoted as saying that he's been a Panthers fan since 3rd grade.
Yeah. At
that time, he was playing QB, and Cam Newton was his idol. And so, he called his selection a dream come true, quote unquote. And the last thing I'll say about it is, I was looking at a stat when everybody was modding, Casey Concepcion to us, and it was it's a stat called yards per route run. And it's strongly predictive of a player's success in the NFL because it addresses like how much they're running these routes against certain concepts. In the NFL, they run zone 60 to 70% of the time.
Yes, and us even more. Like that's
and us. Like, I would say what 80 with us.
Yeah, or more. Maybe like 85%, right? Cover 3 zone specifically. But carry on.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it. I mean, they're always passing off a guy to the safety or to the linebackers, and you got to be able to play in space on our defense.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, to combat that, you look at who's good at that. And so, one of the things that was kind of brought up was, Concepcion struggled. I mean, he was, so basically the barometer is like 2.2.
Mm-hmm.
KC's was 1.8. For comparison, Jonathan Mingo, who's had problems and struggles in the NFL, his was 1.49.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier Legette's, which, kind of was a punch in the face, his was 1.61.
Carry on, man.
But you see these guys that are eating in the NFL,
jerk.
like Jackson Smith and Jigba. Those guys, man, there's, 2.8, 3.1, 3.2. And Chris Brazell, hey, his was one of the highest. I would say like ninth highest of the receivers coming out this year. I think number 1 or number 2 was Makai Lemon. So, I mean, this kid can get open against any concept that NFL teams are going to throw at him. And he's got 4.3 speed. And he's 6'4", almost 6'5". He's going to be an absolute unit.
He's going to be a problem, bro. Look, dog, I'm trying to hold my excitement. I ain't going to lie. When we brought him in for the top 30, I was excited after obviously the one that was mocked was KC Concepcion the most, right? But bringing him in for the top 30 visit, especially like right down the stretch, this was one of the last players that we brought in. I'm geeked, dog. I ain't going to lie. Remember when I said something, it might have been last show or show before last, because the one thing that I will say that's out there is some stuff, and one of the things that kind of makes me nervous, like last year, for example, with James Pierce Jr., and I'm not going to go into that whole situation, but if you already have like some stuff out there, the last place you want to go is home. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be anywhere near, home or any proximity to home, because that could make things worse when you got bread and you got stuff that you kind of into. But again, I say this. One, I don't think that it's like young people driving too fast with a suspended license kind of stuff. Like things that you're not really paying attention to because all you really can focus on is ball. I'm not saying that it's nothing, because it is something. That said, though, I said a couple of shows ago that I feel like you have a coaching staff, and I knew that this was going to start happening eventually, where they're going to start taking chances on players that maybe other people would be like, nah, we're going to pass on that, right? We saw what happened with Diego Pavia and how he, just completely fell off the draft board, which, by the way, the last time that a Heisman candidate, like he didn't win, but he was one of the, candidates for the Heisman, went undrafted was 2014. That just shows you what people, when we talked about all that, stuff about what he was saying about Indiana and Mendoza, about the Heisman, and I don't want to, I don't need representation. I don't want nobody taking 5 or 10% of my money. And John Gruden, and I'm looking at him like he a nut. You know what I'm saying? Like teams were just like, nah, we good. Which I'm glad that Carolina was one of those teams, because we went and got Haynes King, which somebody asked in the chat, will we talk about the UDFAs? Yes, we will pull up a list of the UDFAs and discuss that as well. Man, I'm glad they didn't do this. I'm glad they didn't take a chance. I'm glad it wasn't because you do have the kind of infrastructure here where you can take chances on guys like this. And I feel like with Chris Brazell, I don't know a whole lot about him, but I just know that all that I kept hearing over and over again was like, maybe some off the field stuff, maybe some off the field stuff. And I'm like, well, if it is, then you in the right place, buddy, because we can not only hone in on that talent, but you're in a good place with a type of coach who now, especially now that he gave up play calling, is going to be focused in on that kind of stuff even more, right? So it gives you the ability to get guys who are super talented where you have to manage personalities and manage and kind of help them to be like, hey, man, maybe think of another way. Do something a little bit different to not put yourself, to compromise yourself, because you got a great opportunity ahead of you. So it makes me really excited for him. This, for me, Brad, I'm going to go ahead and say it, like this was an A for me too, right? Again, I know I'm getting a little bit overzealous. The Lee Hunter one, I'm going to back up just for 2 seconds. I'm going to give that one A- only because of trading up. But then again, to me, that also was kind of an A. So, I mean, again, like I said, I don't want to, I know it's going to look like I'm just caping for everything. But man, we've seen so many bad drafts. I'm not the Cape guy. Go back and watch my video on when we drafted DJ Johnson. I was not happy about it at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, at all. And there were people yelling at me in my comments, like, dog, just give it a chance. You don't even know yet. Yes, I do. The dudes played tight end and then they moved him to edge. This one's pretty easy, right? So, yeah, I'm excited. So I'm going A's on these. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
He was 28 years old. And I just remember Vero being like, hey, this is your coach. This is EJ. We're going to have to set the edge.
We're going to set the edge before we rush the pass, dog. Just letting you know.
Which is he did not accomplish in any of his time with us. Maybe there were a couple times, but yeah, nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
But and I mean, and I will be a little more harsh. I mean, I think with his issues, you know, getting winded and those kind of things, he will be a 2-down player at first. So I will give it like just a straight B.
Who are you talking about? You talking about Lee?
Lee Hunter.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. I mean, there will be things he will need to get better at, but next year he's going to give us a whole lot of production, but he's got to develop pass rush moves past just the bull rush. And then on top of that, he definitely has to get in better shape.
Yeah. Gotcha. Let's go to the chat a little bit, and then I'll get your grade on Brazell. JP Tate says, you lived through the Marty Hurney not being able to draft after one round, bro. You made it. Yes, indeed. My Lord, we made it. I'm trying to tell you.
I know that's right.
Boy, it was bad.
He would give us nothing after the first round. I remember trying to hype myself up over Ryan Robinson. He was a returner we picked in the fourth, a wide receiver, undersized, and oh man, he was awful. I mean, he could. I mean, he was not the fastest and not the biggest, but he couldn't catch or field punts. So, you know, there's that.
Right. JP Tate said Luther Burden ranked number 3 last year for yards per route run behind Puka and JSN. Great point made about that stat. Could you have just drafted the next Puka, Brad? This is fascinating. Good research on that too, by the way.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Sean McCrary said if Brazell had a better quarterback, he would have been drafted much sooner. D Cash says facts, bad throws on tape, and he still made plays. Him and Bryce on the same page will be fire with the accuracy. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting, man. He says, and then JP Tate, just to kind of put a cap on this real quick, said he had more raw ingredients than the likes of Hyatt too. Let Brazell develop. He could be a stud. I'm believing it. I am believing it. Like 100% believing it. I do have a question though. I said we were going to be very, very brief in this because we are an Xavier Leggett love show. We do not hate Xavier Leggett, okay? But
I don't.
See, that Greyhound boy, I'm trying to tell you, I heard the horn 2 yards behind me before I even made that comment. And now I'm under the wheels because my man said I'm not. He just threw me all under the bus. My goodness. On a Monday.
Nah, man, we
anyway.
We got some help on the way.
Absolutely. We do. So my question is, look, this wide receiver room is deep now, Brad. It's deep. I have a feeling that somebody getting clipped. I said to you last night that I think that it's possible that you keep most of these guys and then, you know, some people kind of hang around on the practice squad. I don't know if I believe that anymore. I'm starting to believe now that it's just going to be a flat out like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not saying that he's that guy. As a matter of fact, I don't think he's that guy at all, actually. But I will ask you, what does this mean for him? Because that's a high pick, Brad. What does this mean for him specifically?
When you think about the deep dive that they really had to do on this kid, because of the issues that came up, you know, he's got character concerns. I mean, and to me, that's got to be why he fell to the third. I mean, to steal with the issues that you can see on film with quarterback ball placement and the plays that he made, there was something that somebody, I mean, and you know, don't get me wrong, when we talk about the differences in, you know, teams and how they draft. And you've got teams that will have 20 years of separation between like their last dynasty or their last extended winning era or percentage or whatever of high winning percentage. Dude, they really could have been like, man, this kid's nothing more than Hyatt. He's nothing more than any of these Tennessee receivers. And then when you see the film, you see that's different. And maybe that's why he fell. But I will say this. He does not have an issue with drops. Xavier does. This kid is a more polished route runner.
I'm sorry.
We still have 5, 6 other receivers, but as I mean, you know me, man. I mean, people can hear it in my voice. I'm country as a sugar sandwich.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? This brother is going to have to step it up this year. He's going to have to get it in gear. And I mean, I will say, I mean, he has been on film working with Bryce. He has heeded Cam's advice to get with Bryce one-on-one to work. And, he's going to go to Chad Johnson's, Magic Wide Receivers Camp for adults. He's supposed to attend that as well.
It's a real thing, man. Go ahead. Keep going.
You know what I mean? So his head's screwed on right.
Yeah.
But like you said, when it's so much talent, whether your head's screwed on right or not, like when you have a guy who's 6'5", who runs a 4.3 and can catch anything, and he's in your rearview mirror, you had to really produce. I mean, I look back at some of this, some of these comments, and they were funny. They were like, "Dang, Dan, tone it down." I mean, he does wear 17. We get your message loud and clear.
Right.
You know what I mean?
God almighty. Yeah. Hey, look, somebody in the let me say, because I was laughing at this real quick, but he said that nigga wide receiver 8. I was like, bro, I've been laughing the whole time since you said this when I saw that comment. All right, go ahead, man. We ain't trying to laugh at extra expense, but you
look at the roster. I will continue to say that the NFL allowed teams space on their practice squad for veterans. That is a new thing that they've only been doing the past few years. And I continue to say David Canales, like his love for, David Moore is going to not allow him to be cut outright. He will be put in that spot. I don't know about the other one.
Demo gonna be on this roster. It don't matter if nobody else make this roster. David Moore making this roster.
He gonna make it. You know what I'm saying?
Up. Yes.
But man, we got about 6 right now that's gonna be doing some real battling. And one thing about character concerned diva type guys, he is not going to be okay with getting no burn, period. So that kid is going to push the envelope.
Yes, he is. And honestly, I like it. I like this is the crux of what Cam was saying to XL during Super Bowl week. Stop being passive aggressive. Tell your guy what you need, right? Tell him. If you go to him and say, "Hey man, when you think I'm covered right here, I'm wide open," right? And then build the trust. Look, I know I dropped one. Come back to me, man. And I'm not saying that he's not doing that, right? But the suggestion is that he's not, if you're having that kind of conversation. Cam would know, right? Because he's still connected, very much so. So he would know more than anybody. But yeah, and I'm also interested to see what his take would be on this from a couple of different perspectives. Number one, I'm interested to see what Cam's take would be on this from the player himself, Brazell, and then we'll move on after this. But I'm also just as interested to see what Cam's take is on like how happy, or either he might, honestly, Cam might be a little pissed, seeing a team that like really believes in their quarterback, right? Man, Bryce, for all the stuff that Bryce has done this far, which hasn't been a lot, it ain't been nothing close to what Cam has done for this team. And boy, they never did the stuff that they doing for Cam that they doing for Bryce right now. So I know that, there has to be a little bit of like, man, if I was running with this, oh my God. Oh man. But I'm just in love with seeing how they have really bought in, and it's a completely different philosophy. Like last year when we talked about Hurney, I don't think there's a world that exists where Marty Hurney would have said Teteroa McMillan over any defensive player when you had the worst statistical defense in the history of the league last year. I don't see it happening, right?
Man, he would have took Jalen Walker so fast.
Period.
When the phone would have broke with how hard he would have called that in.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? And we wouldn't have got Nick. We wouldn't have got Princely. Those would have been undersized receivers. Or some, janky offensive lineman from Idaho State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just how Marty is, man. That's how he was. He was a newspaper guy, and we made him our GM for years. I'll never understand it.
Yep. All right. That said, I appreciate you guys watching. We got 259 watching between two platforms. Busy day today. 52 likes. Make sure to smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you're not a member. You want to join and help out the channel. $1.99 per month to join the OCs, the original Cats. So far, we got 3 grades given out. A+ for Brad for Monroe Freeling. A- for me. Lee Hunter was a B+ for Brad. That one was an A for me, no doubt. Chris Brazell, I think we're both kind of on the same page. For me, this is an A without question, right? Now,
I would like to say, man.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think now about Bryson Tremaine? Like, that kid was super solid for us, but it's kind of like the Brinson Bursing in the fact that it's like, man, we really got talent in the room now. And though you could really block, how much of it is a place for you outside of special teams?
Well, and that's what I think. So if you're going to carry him, it's going to literally be for that specific reason. Because to me, what you do get out of him offensively is not enough to justify the roster spot. Because here's the thing, man. Like, that's why you max pro tight ends. You know what I'm saying? That's why you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why you go 12 personnel. I just can't, me personally, and I think he's a good player, right? But I don't know that I could justify a roster spot when you've got all this. And look, you don't even know what you're going to get from the guys that have developed, him included, Jimmy Horn, John Mechie. You know what I'm saying? So I think that he could be one of those names that's on the block. Yeah, definitely. You brought back, didn't they go get Felipe Franks? Didn't they get him back? Didn't they get back Isaiah Simmons, right? Who had Isaiah Simmons, really, if we win that playoff game, he's walking on somebody, or he's on somebody's shoulders getting carried to the locker room, because without that punt block, we're not even in that position, right? Because we scored on that drive. So I think I'm not going to say you have enough, because you never have enough. But with all that you've added to the room from a receiver perspective, I do think his name would be one of the ones that would likely be on the block. Just my opinion.
Right. I mean, and perhaps he could carve out a Carl Hankton role. I mean, those, us older Panther fans, I mean, we remember Carl Hankton. He was a wide receiver that, would have around 6 to 15, 20 catches a season. And otherwise, he would be causing absolute havoc on kickoff and on punt teams. Great special teamer. But yeah, game day roster spots, man, are going to be really hard to come by with all this addition of talent.
Yes.
So I just wonder what your thoughts were on that. I had completely forgot about him. And I seen somebody in the chat was talking about it, and I was like, oh, yeah, man, Bryson Tremaine.
I appreciate you keeping up with the chat. Shout out to Joe Clarity with the $2 super chat. Joe Clarity says, if they gave Cam these resources, 2 rings minimum. Likely. Yeah, I think it would have been and not just the resources from the players, because me and Brad, we had an absolute gauntlet of a battle, which I'm not going to bring here because we would talk about that for 30 minutes and we got way more to cover. But we had a gauntlet of a battle about Cam's development under Norv and the players that they had, the personnel. So I think it's multifaceted. I don't think it's just the fact that you bring in the players, because you could bring in guys and not know what the hell to do with them, right? It's also having a Dave Canales, right? So if Cam had a Norv at the early part of his career, or I would even go a step further. If Cam would have still had Chud, right, and had a Jeremy Shockey, you could take all of the other stuff away. Like having Steve Smith was huge, having JoJo LaFell was huge, having Legadou Nene for a year was huge for him, as a rookie. But I think even if you just had a guy like Shock being able to run 12 personnel and had Chud, who helped him win Rookie of the Year, then things could have changed. It is not easy, and this gets overlooked a lot of times. And I think it was Nick Foles was on a podcast recently, and he was talking about Jalen Hurts. But he was like, man, people have no idea how difficult it is to go from play caller to play caller like year after year, whether it's through someone graduating to go to somewhere else. Because here's the thing, men have egos. I would like to think in a perfect world that somebody would have a framework and be like, hey, this works, so we're going to keep this going. And as a result of this, we can just keep the success going. But you get another guy in there, he's like, man, I got another philosophy. I've been taught, all different kind of things. Like, yeah, we did some stuff that works and we'll keep that, but I want to add to this. And usually when you do that, what happens? Train wreck, right? So having continuity is important. Year one, Chud went to go be a coach for Cleveland and got fired, and we never heard from him again, right? So I think he would have flourished with Cam in Carolina, and for at least 2 years, you wouldn't have seen the drop-off you saw from Cam in year two either if Chud was around, I believe. So, and he still bounced back, towards the end of the year, but it was a fall-off, especially in the beginning. Never will forget us getting absolutely hammered by New York on Thursday night football, and, it wasn't a good game at all. But that said, let's move on. All right. So Will Lee, 4th round pick, 129 out of Texas A&M. Brad, this guy is an absolute thumper, right? Another tall corner, press man corner. But you do have a few corners in the building, so it's going to be interesting to see where he fits, because I do think that he's going to be an impact guy. But you got Corey Thornton waiting in the wings. Corey Thornton may be challenging the nickel spot, Shal Smith-Wade, which I do have a hot take about coming up soon. Mike Jackson getting ready to, another contract year for him, right? So this could be your Mike Jackson insurance, or Corey Thornton could be your Mike Jackson insurance, and then he becomes the Corey Thornton next year. You know what I'm saying? The guy who kind of moves around and just kind of, does what's necessary where he's needed. But beyond where he's going to fit, the player himself, I like him. I think there's some development, to be had here. Handsy guy, aggressive guy, right? But I like the prototype. They have a type when it comes to corners in this cover 3 zone that they like to run. He is an Avero guy if there ever was one. What's your thoughts?
Well, that's one of the first things I was going to say. I mean, he's a guy that fits that mold exactly. I mean, 6'1.5", 6'2", long arms, real aggressive, but plays well in zone. Plays downhill, man. He's one of those guys that I get really excited about because, growing up, watching Dion and watching cornerbacks make business decisions, Dion, Darrell Green, and then you would see the difference between them and I don't know why, guys. I can see his face. Played for he played corner, then moved to safety. Played for the Steelers. Hall of Famer.
Corner to safety.
Yeah.
Recent guy?
No. Hall of Famer.
No, but I'm saying like in the last, like, was you talking like
Rod Woodson?
Okay, got you. I was thinking like Chuck Hall of Fame guys or like Bill Cowher.
Yeah, I don't know why that escaped my mind though. But yeah, Rod Woodson, you see those kind of guys that would come up and tackle. Now I'm just saying the difference between them. I'm not calling or, predicting anything like that. So but this guy will come up and tackle. And that's a thing that really makes me a huge, Corey Thornton, Mike Jack fan, that because if you can set the edge as a corner, man, with the kind of, options we're giving them at, defensive tackle and defensive end and outside linebacker, again, just stalwart in the running game. This is one of those guys, man. He's an almost there guy. He's in place to make a lot of plays. He does not get his hands on a lot of interceptions. But he was, second team SEC in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I would say the Big Ten's approaching, but still the best conference in football. And, plays well in his zone, downhill. He's the guy I had the least on, but I'm just excited about the fact that his aggressiveness, like you said, he'll hit. He's a dog. He's the kind of guy he's going to need some coaching.
Yeah, definitely.
But he was slated to go earlier, and he's the prototype for what they look for. It's like we were talking about last night. They are drafting guys, which would be, we're talking about how sad or how odd or different or it would be to have drafted all these guys to fit Evero's defense and then him not be here to see it through, or for him not to succeed with them putting everything into his scheme.
Yeah.
But this is one of his guys again. Man, 6'1".
Yeah, they
6'2",
got a tight
jumper. That's he almost linebacker size. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. So, and having versatility is important. Here's my hot take. I think that there's a chance that Shao Smith-Wade could get clipped. I do, because you got.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's my hot take for today. I'm not saying I want that, but somebody said it in the chat. This man, the cornerback competition is going to be fierce. And I feel like, I can't remember who I was listening to that was talking in the draft, and they were talking about who they had to play against in camp, like all the time, right? It was a Hall of Famer that was talking about this and talking about someone, and they were talking about comparisons of not this player, but a player to a guy that they had to face in camp, fairly often. That's kind of what I feel like is going to happen. Like, remember last year, man, T-Mac. I mean, there were people who literally had probably hair raising on the back of their neck like, oh, Lord, did we draft the wrong guy? Because Corey Thornton at moments was putting the clamps on T-Mac in camp, dog. In mini camp, in OT. I mean, no, it's not OTAs, but in mini camp and then training camp, bro, it was insane, right? And T-Mac even said himself to one of the reporters, like, Corey's a good player. Like, he's a very good player, But I was one of those people, I'm like, dang. Like, I wasn't thinking like, man, we drafted the wrong guy. But I was kind of nervous. Like, who is this Thornton kid? You know what I'm saying? Like, doing this to the next Mike Evans, the next Plaxico, the next whoever else, tall archetype you want to say this about. He should be coming in here.
Don't say Plaxico.
Oh, okay, cool. He should be coming in here just absolutely dominating, right? But look, iron sharpens iron. And then you see T-Mac go on to win, Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I knew what time it was with Corey when they put him in the nickel spot, especially, big nickel a lot, during the preseason. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so when Shao got hurt, you saw the result. I feel like now you've got bigger players like a Will Lee who can challenge that spot as well. Now, I'm not saying that he would come in, immediately and, but you just don't know, right? So you got a lot of guys in the room. The one thing I love about this draft up to this point, before we move to picks 5, to the 2 5s and the 7, and then the UDFAs, is that it feels like to me that every player that they're picking, each person that is at the top of this leaderboard of who's making decisions has it's not like random. Like for example, let's just say hypothetically they draft Rodriguez, right? Which we'll talk about the linebacker spot here in a minute when we get to number 7. You could argue that maybe that was a Dan pick. That wasn't necessarily Dave's choice, but Dave would live with it. It wasn't necessarily Brant's choice because he's like, well, we got other positions that we need to be thinking about down the future. You know what I'm saying? As far as the money is concerned and the contracts and stuff like that, but I'll live with it because Dan sees himself in this kid, right? I don't feel like that at all with this draft. I feel like you got a lot of positional value for guys that you didn't expect maybe to be there when you drafted them. But each person, Dan, Brant, Dave, all have a specific thing that they needed that each one of these players will fulfill, right? You missed with Lee Hunter. You lost A'Shawn Robinson, right? Bobby Brown's only under contract for what, another year or two? And who else would you don't want to be in a position to put yourself in the same position that you were in where you were just getting gashed in the run game. Okay, cool. We'll move up. Lee Hunter's still on the board. Let's go get him. From the wide receiver spot, you drafted a guy that you thought, hey, man, we can develop this guy. Still yet to be determined. But the point is that, hey, you got people forget, Jalen Coker, while he signed a deal, is still going to be due a deal. Isn't it after this year, Brad? Like, after this year, won't he still be, like, up for a contract?
Yeah. They are not buying in all the way. I completely meant to mention that during the Chris Brazell talk, as far as, like, we were talking about that last night about we're all not still sold on Coker. They aren't either. And so, after next year, they'll have to figure out another contract if they want to keep him.
That's what I'm saying. So now you're putting yourself in a position where it would break my heart to not see Coker here. But at the same time, the money is the money. You have to be able to figure it out somehow. And you got to get cheaper. Monroe Freeling, man, you got one guy who's going to be a cap hit next year. One guy you don't know if he's ever going to be the same again. But let's just say hypothetically he is. He's going to be due a deal. He's going to play on a tag, a fifth-year option. But eventually you're going to have to pay that man or make a decision to send him elsewhere. And then next year you're drafting again. And you're just keeping this process and this cycle going. So what a beautiful thing to be in a place where you can literally kick the can down the road. I saw the Jets do this year. One of the first times you've ever seen it happen because they didn't have a choice. There was no quarterback that they could take a reach on. Dante Moore went back to school. Arch Manning's still in school. Fernando was taken at the top. We're not going to reach on Garrett Nussmeier, right? You talked about, him having a tumor situation that kind of, impeded him this year because he was slated to be one of the top quarterbacks off the board. Carson Beck fell down. You know what I'm saying? They did take Cade Klubnik, but that's not a reach. You need a quarterback. If he hits, then, man, you just struck gold. But if he doesn't, you still building out your roster to be in a situation where next year you've got more opportunities at quarterback that would be better for you than it would be right now. I love the position that you're in because, like I said, you're covering all three phases of the most important parts of your team to make sure that you got guys always in place. And I feel like that's what this draft is. That's why this is so impactful. So the Will Lee pick, I will say I'm going to give it a B. But, because I know some people were upset. And let me just say this real quick. Sidebar. The tight end situation. Look, I went back and done some research, Brad, and I'm going to go just for a second, and then I'm going to let you respond because I know I'm saying a lot. But I did some research because I was like, I've been hearing so much about David Njoku and people saying, hey, we need to go get him. Or, why didn't we draft a tight end? Whatever like that. I personally like our tight end room. I think they like our tight end room. But I also know this. From 2015 up until 2024, you've literally had 4 tight ends, sometimes not even 4, usually like 2, 3, but 2 specifically that stand out. Greg Olsen and Travis Kelce, those 2 tight ends, right? Those guys are normally your 1,000-yard tight ends. Now, I'm not saying a tight end has to have 1,000 yards to be effective because clearly that's not the case, right? But I think when people are saying, go get a tight end, go get a tight end, go get a tight end, they're viewing it through that lens. They want to see the next Greg, the next Travis and stuff like that. These guys don't grow on trees. That's why you only got a couple of names that have broke through over the years. I'll give you a few of those names. Delaney Walker, he had 1,000 yards one year. Mark Andrews had 1,000 yards one year. George Kittle did a couple of years. Nothing like Greg and Travis, though. Like, consistently. Gronk had it like 2 or 3 years at a time. Still, not like Greg and Travis. These are special guys. It's not a normal thing. Plus, you run an offense where you go more 12 personnel than a lot of others. And oftentimes it's for max protection. Sometimes they go 13. That's why I do like our room. I don't think you have an offense that necessarily features the tight end the same way as you used to, right? Because a lot of times, let me just say this. If you have an offense that you have a Travis Kelce that is a 1,000-yard receiver, he's a safety valve. He's a guy you're going to find in the seam, find in the zone, you know what I'm saying, that can exploit matchups between him and linebackers and stuff like that. that it usually, for us, we can say this definitively because we know this, right? Especially Greg started getting off after Steve was gone, right? If we're just being honest. If he's that safety valve, that means you got problems on the perimeter. You got problems in other places. I'm not necessarily mad about our tight end room because we have speed on the perimeter now. We had it before if he could catch. And you've got other options. You got T-Mac, Coker. You've got these, you're available in so many different areas where you don't necessarily have to worry about featuring that. Now, I'm not saying that you can't get better at the position because you can, right? But I like where we are because each of these guys does something that's extremely helpful for the offense. That's my take on it. So the fact that we didn't draft the tight end, I'm not mad about that. Speak on that, and then we're going to move on to picks 5 through 7.
What I'm speaking on?
The tight end thing.
Well, I mean, I feel like with the addition with Felipe Franks, you get you a real nice option at on special teams. Again, before he gets hurt, we have seen a tight end with athleticism like, a JT Saunders. I mean, a lot of people keep saying, when he fell on his neck, and he's been kind of hesitant since then. It's kind of seemed that way. He's made a lot of catches that seem routine, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But, like you were talking about Mike Kay, said that he was the best player at camp. If we see a resurgence in that kid, if it's, year 3, he hits the kind of year 3 production and the kind of year 3, next step that you normally see with receiving options, because he's a competent blocker.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be fine with JT Sanders. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
And then the first, 6-7 weeks of the season, especially a couple weeks there, in a row, Mitchell Evans was the highest PFF rated tight end in the league, not just NFC South, the league. So, I think we're fine at tight end.
I do too.
You know what I mean? And as we work in more, creativity to the offense, I feel like you'll see more out of the tight ends, and those guys just got to produce. And we talked about XL dropping passes. When JT and those guys drop passes, Bryce, he's going to look elsewhere.
That's a fact. JP
so they step up.
Go ahead.
They make some leads. We'll be fine at tight end.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on. JPT says tight end is the third or fourth choice weapon in the system. It isn't the Chiefs or Niners, which is why they didn't reach for one this year. There wasn't a special one, even Sadiq. I think that's yet to be determined, but appreciate the contribution. All right. So 5 through 7. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So if you had a chance to look at my mock draft that I did, I want to say 3-4 weeks ago, in addition to Dylan Thieneman, which, let me just say this real quick, because backing up to the Monroe Freeling at 19, although Monroe Freeling was 100% the right pick, and I didn't speak on this because I spoke mostly on the Jacob Rodriguez thing, I'd be lying to say that I wasn't surprised that we passed on Dylan Thieneman. I was very surprised. But Monroe made much more sense. It made more sense. That said, I was shocked that someone that I mocked in the 3rd round was available in the 5th. And boy, it wasn't just me. It was not just me. Did you have a chance to hear Sam Hec when he got interviewed by the team?
I did not.
So I can understand, I don't think, some people said that they felt like that it was more like him being frustrated because of going to Carolina. I completely disagreed with that. It was 100% because of where he was drafted. And I understand that because just like Sam Hec himself, I was shocked that Sam Hec was there in the 5th round, especially at pick 144, especially when you think about all of the teams. Look, Tyler Lindenbaum got the big contract, right? After that, it was kind of, the pickings were guys like what we got, Tyler Fortner, right? So it was a shock to me to see him there. And I don't think it was necessarily because of, I think that some of it I don't know. I don't know the reason, right? But I'm trying to find the audio right now because I want you to hear, like, it was something that people talked about a lot. They were like, man, it was crazy to hear how, like, almost down he was that he was getting picked where he was. And I think he went on, it might have been when he was with Kay Adams, that he actually said, like, hey, it was really because of where I got drafted. Like, I was really surprised about where I got drafted. And that was more the issue, more than, me just being frustrated about coming to Carolina.
Sam,
like,
what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how you feel about being a Panther, man?
Oh man, that's awesome. That sounds awesome.
Who you with?
I'm with my family right now.
Awesome, man. Congrats, man. We're excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm clipping. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna hand you off to our owner, David Tepper, okay?
Alrighty.
All right, man. Congrats.
All right.
I'm back at home with my family right now.
Which home?
You already said that? David Tepper's like, hey, man, where you at? He's like, I'm back home with my family right now.
Yeah, when he said, "I'm going to put you on with David Tepper, our owner," he was like, "Yeah, all right."
He was upset.
Go
ahead.
I was going to hit you with the goal member, you know what I'm saying? When you was like, well, I don't know why he fell. And I was going to be like, well, I do. You know what I mean? Yo, it's that same, like, arm length bullshit, man. Like, they said he had something like 31 and, 2/3 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But Brady Christensen, and we've seen how well Brady played at center, guard, and tackle. His was only 32, man. Y'all trying to tell me 1 inch makes that kind of difference?
Which, considering Tony the Fan said it, just like I said it, just like Pete said it, when I did, I was shocked. 0 sacks given up in college. 0.
Dude, 4 other centers went ahead of him. He was the 3rd ranked center, but 4, including 1 kid with a devastating knee injury, got drafted before him. And I mean, I get it, man. I mean, this kid, like you said, 0 sacks. And not just that, man, like, he doesn't get any penalties. You know what I'm saying? He had 0 flags accepted on him across, let's see here, 840 snaps in 2024. I mean, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
840 snaps without a penalty.
That's insane.
I just don't, yeah. I mean, I think it was because of the arm nonsense, but I just don't get it. I mean, the kid was as solid could be. And the value was insane there. I mean, 3rd rated center. The latest they had him going was middle to, end of the 3rd round, and we got him in the 5th. Bro, that kid's going to play like his hair is on fire.
JP Tay tripping. Read JP Tay comment in the chat. I ain't even putting that on the board. Bro, you wildin'. But no, in the grand scheme of this, look, we've seen this. Rashawn Slater as a left tackle, and look at his career. Jason Peters, who played for the Eagles for all those years. Jason Peters was undrafted. Short guy, arm short. Jason Peters will likely be a Hall of Famer one day. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you're like, guys play football. That was Luke's whole thing about Jacob Rodriguez. Guys play football. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you, man. Like, those stats are transferable. This kid's going to be good. Now look, I don't know that this would happen right away. And guess what? It doesn't need to. But if they're really true to form of challenge in all positions, this is another guy I feel like could challenge Tyler Fortner for that spot. Boy, would it be great to solidify a 5th round pick and he becomes it's kind of the same thing as Cade, but he becomes your starting center. And I dare say, personally, probably better. Probably much better, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, he's been doing this. I mean, Cade was a guard.
Right. So
I mean, he filled in admirably, but I mean, he was a guard. This kid's been playing center. I mean, his IQ and that's the big thing about center is deciphering the plays before, the play, like deciphering what the defense is doing for the play starts. You'll hear him before a play starts and be like, blue 52, and they're like, 16 or, 23 is the mic. And then, they will pass down the blocking assignments to the guys on either side. That's why you'll take a guy who was terrible in one-on-one drills, like an Andrew Norwell, and put him beside a Ryan Khalil, and he becomes all pro.
Well,
and then you take him away from Ryan Khalil, and he goes to Jacksonville, and his career nosedives.
So think about this as a potential starting lineup next year, right? If they all hit, Monroe is your left, Damian Lewis, Sam is your center, Hunt is your right, and then Icky is your right tackle. That's what Rico was doing last year with the guys that we had and all the rotations we had. That to me would be, Brooks, ETN, whoever it is, specifically Brooks. If Brooks is to come back healthy, you talking about one of the top rushing. And that's not even to count bringing in Mitchell Evans and Trimble, in 12 and 13 or even 13 personnel for max protection. You're talking about a team that's one of the top rushing teams in the NFL. Like, with the perimeter weapons that you have. Like, I'm telling you, this. So for me, I'm just going to say it, this is an A+ pick. Where he fell to, which I'm sure they were even surprised. Like I said, his frustration on that call, you can hear it.
Shawnee, Kansas.
Shawnee, Kansas?
Oh.
Kansas City area.
All right, cool.
David Tepper is literally having to pull information out of this kid. Where you from, buddy? Shawnee, Kansas. Like, buddy, you got drafted. You're here now. But I get it. Look, Tom Brady had won 3 Super Bowls, Brad. And he got interviewed. They did a special on Brady called the Brady 6. I don't know if you've ever watched it. It's one of the most inspirational things I've ever seen in my life, right? Tom Brady, 3 Super Bowls in, supermodel wife, you name it, he's done it. And when he sat down to talk about draft day and the experience, he cried on camera because he couldn't believe that he fell to the 6th round. He's like, man, I'm thinking I'm going to have to go sell insurance now. He actually said, like, I was kind of glad that I didn't have to go sell insurance, right? Finally got drafted in the 6th round, 199th. Passed on multiple times. Every single one of those guys, including the guy that kept getting put in front of him in Henson, gone. None of them lasted. Most of them didn't even last. The kid that the San Francisco 49ers drafted, I don't even think he lasted a year. I don't know if I think he played a couple of snaps. Out of there.
Well, they were thinking, man, like this guy, he has some tools, but he played behind Brian Greasy, trash, and Drew Henson, trash. And that's just kind of where he fell. I'm glad you got some inspiration from Tom Brady. I personally would rather.
Is that why you muted? Was you laughing at me like behind the scenes muting?
I was kind of over here like, man, is he really talking about inspiration from Tom Brady?
Yeah. Of course. Why not?
Thomas Brady Jr. Yeah, he definitely had to get it out of the mud. 6th round pick.
Yep.
All right.
So A+ for me for Sam Hec. What grade you giving it, boss?
I'm going to do an A+ as well. 3rd round. We've been wanting a center since Dan took Jonathan Brooks over Zach Frazier. We've been wanting a center since Ryan Khalil retired, but people were very, very angry that instead of Zach Frazier, we took Jonathan Brooks, who we love, we're high on. He's just been hurt. And also because, when we started the season, Austin Corbett was snapping the ball to the punter behind Bryce Young that wasn't, I guess, on the field. But you remember those few snaps, and we were just like, oh, man, we really are lost at center.
Mm-hmm.
And to have a competent guy and then a rookie of this, magnitude guys go to third round as a center because you're playing center, not because you're not good.
Right.
But then, like I said, to me, it's got to be the arm length. Like I said, if this guy's give up, 0 sacks, the numerous amount of sacks of snaps without a penalty. Like I said, he's as solid as you can get, man. And we got him in the 5th. That's an A+.
Well, I'm gonna go a step further. So we're gonna do. You just said something.
Are you giving him extra credit?
Nope. Snaps without a penalty. Boy, you are segue king today. Snaps without a penalty. One of my favorite, if not, might be my favorite pick in this entire draft. I said something when I saw, I think it was Buffalo, pick Jalen Kilgore. And I tweeted, I said, boy, they love, in capital letters, Nick Scott. They love him. Because you couldn't have told me that they would have went in this draft and not got a safety. And boy, did they get one. Here, again, another guy, positional value, that is just, I was shocked to see him there. Zak Wheatley might be my favorite. Like, I know I said Chris Brazell was one of my favorite. This might be my absolute favorite pick in this entire draft for us. This kid is the real deal. Smart, tall, can play single high, ball hawk, you name it. This kid is, right? I am really excited about this player because I think he can immediately come in and challenge that position specifically, like right away. I don't know. Honestly, man, I'd be interested to see what the book was on him from other, teams as to why he fell this far. But I ain't into asking questions as much as I am as just saying, like, man, I'm glad he did. What's your thoughts on Wheatley?
Well, I was just excited once I seen the film. And then, I did get into a few of those interviews with our scouts. And I really like what, Caleb Leach, our Northeast area scout, said about him. Said, I'm surprised he failed to us in the 5th. And, he was like, he's one of them ones. So, he was really big on him. And, when you break down what he actually said, he is a guy who can go back and play in the post. He's got great ball skills and range, and he sees it like no one else, which alludes to the IQ that you were talking about. He's just very active and instinctual, as I mentioned before, but he can also come down in the box and really go hit somebody like Lathan Ransom, Trayvon Mayrig as well. And he can play in the slot. I do believe this is an athlete that we're very excited to get. Mm-hmm. And Coach Dave Canales and Dan Morgan had a great vision of where he can be on our team. And it's just, this was a guy they wanted. It's not just like, he fell in our lap and we're just going BPA and a lot of guys that, we were looking at aren't here. So let's just grab a guy. This dude was somebody they were looking at and they were excited to get. And then when you look at his elite athleticism, the guy's 6'3", 200 pounds, mm-hmm. and he's like a missile. You know what I mean? I would say he fell because he ran a 4.62.
Yep.
When you got guys out there.
Yeah.
When you got guys out there like, Bud Clark and those dudes running 4.4s and Sonny Styles' little brother or older brother running a 4.3 and, Thieneman running a 4.3. It's like, man, come on, man, a 4.6. But hold on. Let me bring up some other players of note. Kyle Hamilton, I would say one of the best safeties in the NFL, plays for Baltimore. He ran a 4.59. Cam Chancellor, one of the best safeties in the history of the NFL, ran a 4.69.
Talk.
And everyone's favorite cornerback, Josh Norman, ran a 4.66 at the combine.
Talk heavy.
When you are playing a zone, which we play 80% of the time, maybe even more, 40 times are not that important. With this kid's IQ and where he's in the right place, teammates passing guys off, if they're running downfield, this guy is going to be a difference maker.
Period.
And for someone, and I mean, I was arguing with people about the Thieneman being there. People were so excited about him. And I was like, listen, if you're hung up on safety, why don't you think about, would you rather have Nick Scott playing safety or the fact that we're one injury away from Stone Forsythe starting at tackle, because that's where we would have been after one injury. Who is Stone Forsythe, you ask? He's an offensive tackle that we signed from the Raiders. He had a 55.2 overall PFF grade in 2025 season. That ranked 76 out of 89 qualified tackles. His run blocking was 56.1. That's 69 out of 89. He allowed 40 total pressures, including 11 sacks across 700 snaps. If any of you remember last year, and you remember poor, oh, it was so awful to turn on and watch the Raiders, all that they were going to do. I mean, Ashton Genty had nowhere to run. Nowhere to run. And then Geno Smith was running for his life. 11 sacks. That's who would have been starting had we not taken my man Monroe Freeling. So I said all that to say that doesn't mean that, we all like Nick Scott. We just thought at that point there was an issue. What were we going to do? But we have someone who can now compete with Nick Scott for that free safety position. He can hit like Trayvon and Latham, but he can cover better than Latham. So I'm gonna go ahead. I give this a B+.
What, you trying to get a raise or something today, man? What's up?
I know, man. I
you-
told you it's the draft, man.
You
The draft, bring it out, bro.
You potting, boy. Trying to get paid up in there, man. Ain't got enough money to pay Brad. You trying to get a raise or
My
something?
best friends call me Cash.
So again, this is gonna be a B for me. And the only thing I would say, like you said, 40 time and age. None of those things matter to me in the grand scheme of things. But when we're just giving out grades, that's where I'm at. So, but Brad, you are in your absolute freaking bag. All right. Make sure y'all smash that like button, subscribe button, bell notification so you never miss a video. 268 watching. We've been holding 2+ on YouTube alone, man, which is crazy for today. So I appreciate y'all joining in today. 78 likes. Make sure to smash that like button. It's free. All right, moving on to the last player of the draft, at least. Jackson Kawatch. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Linebacker from Miami of Ohio, former linebacker from Ohio State. Obviously, probably knew the Ohio State University. Yes. Probably knew himself that Arvell and Sonny are in the way. So let me go somewhere where I can spread my wings and fly. Just like Ray Charles moved out to California. He said, California somewhere where a nigga can go and spread his wings and fly, And so that's what this brother thought. He said, man, let me go somewhere where I can actually, get some burn. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
This was another bit of a surprise for me, right? Now, was I aware of this guy? No, I was not. But once I started seeing the tape on him and started seeing like some of the, conversation about him, yeah, it was another surprise, another pleasant surprise. Let me say this real quick, Brad, and for the people that are just joining us that are here, because we, got people that keep kind of coming in and out of the draft, of the stream. I want to say this real quick because it is surprising to me that there are so many players that you may have not seen available or positional value players. I feel like the reason why I say this is an important draft because it's going to separate. The Bible talks about a time where the wheat from the tares will be separated. Let them grow together because eventually the two will be separated when the time is right? During harvest. I feel like that's where we are now. And here's what I think got us there. So I'm going to read you this because I read this at the top of the show and you weren't here when I did. So I want to kind of go back through this again. But this is a tweet from Lance Zierlein. in a conversation that was a larger conversation that was happening yesterday with Bucky Brooks and others. And he said, I've seen a lot of talk about consensus boards in the draft this year. I can tell you that I had multiple conversations after day 2, and then again after the draft was over with teams who thought it was the Wild West this year. I think one of the things happening is there are players going back to college now because of the money available that would have gone 2nd through 4th round. With all of those players now out of the draft pool, there's an extreme variance that is developing. I would expect for this to continue on to some degree, but this was also a really funky draft in terms of the board available to teams. Let me tell you what I think when I see Carolina getting players that you wouldn't expect to be drafted where they're drafted. Older players, seasoned players, but high value players, and the board falling literally right to you, right? This is what I read. It is the guy who is digging for gold in San Francisco during the gold rush who didn't quit whenever he got close enough to strike it. It is Jay-Z having money available and Gary Vaynerchuk having money available that when Jack, whoever his name is, the CEO of Uber at the time, comes and approaches them about funding, they say yes because they have availability. And then they become, that's really, people don't know this. Well, I'm not saying they don't know this because you can read the information, but really what like made Jay a billionaire was his investment in Uber very early, right? But how do you do that if you don't have capital available to invest? This is the work of Dan Morgan and Dave Canales and those scouts, which I'm glad that they allowed to have shine. And because you quoted one earlier when we were talking about Chris Brazell, this is the work of those people, those guys and girl, I should say, that are boots on the ground and they stick to process so that when preparation meets opportunity, you find gems in the draft and they fall right in your pocket, right? Because so many times, I remember watching a Hard Knocks episode one time, and this was when they had Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley and, you know, all these big personalities in the room, all these super smart football guys, right? But alphas nonetheless. And Hugh is having a conversation and Todd Haley disagrees with something that Hugh was saying. And then this position coach had something to, you know, chime in and say, and Hugh was like, hey, this is my team, right? Okay, cool. 1 game in 2 years. Your team. You can't do anything in this life by yourself. Ask me how I know. I had to learn. Bringing Brad on as a co-host of Min Street Monday. Y'all come in here not just because of what I have to say. Honestly, I think it's more value because of what he has to say and his knowledge because of playing the positions, right? That we often talk about. This is, to me, like I said, preparation, meeting opportunity. So now you're in a position where you done all that you need to do and the board's literally falling down into your lap. Now, you did take some lumps in the process, but the point is that your whole team together is doing this. It's not just like, yes, Dan is cooking, no doubt, but this is a team, total team effort. So I just thought that was a fascinating take because this was a conversation that was going on. It started by Bucky Brooks arguing with someone else, and I thought this was fascinating, a fascinating take on things, and that kind of explains, you know, why some of these players are available to you because of what your scouts are doing, the homework they're doing. And I do like seasoned players. I don't like that Keontae Scott went to Tampa. I'm not thrilled about that, right? I think Keontae Scott's going to be a good football player, right? But I still think you got big value out of the players that you got yourself. So I just wanted to throw that in as a sidebar and welcome you back, Brad, because I know you have muted yourself and gone into the green room when I go into one of my rants. But your thoughts on Jackson Kawatch?
Super excited. People were, you know, kind of wondering about this pick just because it was, you know, when you get to the 7th round, everybody's first, you know, retort is, man, we could have got him undrafted, man. I mean, there was a guy that I liked. And one thing I really tried to do about the draft is, you know, when I was younger, I would be like, oh man, they should have took this guy. This is the guy I wanted. But you grow to know how much work, like you were talking about, you know, the scouts, just the work they do and the kind of board they set. And, you know, there are 31 other teams drafting. So it's a high, you know, probability that the guys that you're looking for are going to be gone.
Mhm.
And then there are going to be some guys that you value over other people. I mean, this guy was ranked, around 370, and it's 277 picks in the draft, 277 being Mr. Irrelevant. So, people were thinking like, hey, man, this guy's a guy that should go undrafted. Why did we draft him in the 7th? And then, you start to think about what teams are doing in the 7th round. By then, you drafted the kind of guys that you feel like are difference makers. You feel like guys you can fill out your roster with. And it's like, he's a guy that you start looking at, what are the values? I mean, you throw away your big board, you start looking at specific traits and the special teams value and the things these guys can help you with. And you just start like look at this guy's, resume. 109 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, an 82.1 PFF grade. I mean, that's elite for a linebacker. That's on the level of guys that were drafted 6 rounds ahead of him. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He did only have 1 year of elite production. So, that takes like these national, algorithms. It'll take them a while to catch up. And so, it's like, man, yeah, this guy's ranked 370. But if you're an NFL scout and you look at this guy who, he's finally figured it out, he's 6'4", he weighs 235 pounds. In an NFL weight room, he's going to get to 240, 245 real quick. But, even though he had these low rankings, man, like you look at his pro day, you talked last night, dude, his 3-cone drill was 6.95 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
That would have ranked 2nd amongst all linebackers at the combine, including Sonny Styles. So he's got elite athleticism, and he's a dog, man. I mean, they were calling, the tweets were that the Panthers drafted the sleeper of the draft. The Colts, Broncos, all of those teams were heavily invested in this kid, and they had scouted him, and they were hoping that they would be able to get in a bidding war and land this kid because he would have went undrafted. But by us drafting him, he's a Carolina Panther, and no one can negotiate with him.
Absolutely. Man, you in your bag, boy. I'm telling you, you getting a raise. Look, absolutely. And look, it's wide open for him too. It's yours, bro. It's yours to take. It is yours to take. If I'm walking in that room with those his 10 split was the best since they've been statting since they've been keeping record of the stat, right? If I'm walking into that room, the only thing that I'm concerned about, Brad, is his confidence level, because I'm walking into that room looking at anybody not named Devin Lloyd as food.
Food.
Period. It's yours to take, dog. Go take it. It's yours.
I mean, dude, hey, Claudin, Trevin, and we talked about this last night. They do believe in Trevin. They believe in, vetting this process out. He's got a lot of advice, a lot of tutelage from our soon-to-be Hall of Fame inductee, Luke Kuechly, and Thomas Davis. And he's played better, man. You know what I mean? He just, the greatest ability is availability.
Period.
And I am firm believer, man, like this kid, if he gets a shot, he might be one of those that, like a Zach Braun, you know what I mean? Like he just does not ever relinquish the starting spot once he gets it. I mean, I know he's going to be a beast on special team, man. 6'4", 245 with that kind of speed. He's going to be a wedge buster on kickoff return. Like he's going to get things done. Bro,
can you imagine? Like Landman for the Rams. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it reminds me of him. Like you said, Zach Bond, 6'4", him and Devin Lloyd. This defense, I mean, if these guys hit the way we think that they will, paired with what you already have, a edge rusher, the right edge rusher, who I believe is Nick Scorton. I do. I think for whatever reason, I feel like Nick Scorton is going to absolutely hit the ground running this year. You might be looking at we're going to be having real conversations in the next couple of years if these picks hit about rankings of who was the best all-time Panther defense. Because everybody's in position. It's on Avero now, dog. It is on Avero. It's on Avero. Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's got so many tools. And you know, a lot of the conversation is centered around Izzik and what he's going to do with the offense, and are we going to get more creative? Dude, what are we going to do on defense? I mean, he did pull us out of the gutter to a top 15 defense.
Indeed.
But
indeed,
I look for there to be another consistent jump, and if not, man, I'm going to be disappointed.
Me too.
And dude, he's got to let the rookies play some. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you do have your issue with rookies, okay, Princely's not a rookie anymore. Get him some snaps.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You've seen how Scorton played last year.
Yeah.
Let's not have this, super heavy rotation where he's got to sit and watch Pat Jones play for, 25% of the snaps a game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because when those players, namely Princely and Nick Scorton last year, got more snaps, our defense played better.
Indeed.
Now that was without Jalen Phillips. We did add him. So, I mean, he's going to get the majority of the snaps, but you got to allow guys to carve out. Older Panther fans remember a guy named Al Wallace. Yeah, Al wasn't the starter. Same with Mario Addison, not a starter, but these guys came in and got significant snaps to get in a lather, to get in a rhythm, and to make plays.
Yeah.
So you got to, they're giving you the pieces. You got to put them in there. You got to make them work. You got to coach them up. And I will be my hope is this is like, I tried to look it up. I can't find it. I think it was like 2023, 2024 draft where the Saints got starters and significant, contributors. Been talking too fast. Significant contribution. You know what I'm saying? Significant contributions from players in the first and through the fourth rounds. I feel like that's something we can do. You may not see Freeling early.
Yeah.
But you may see Sam early.
Yeah.
You may see Brazell early. You're definitely going to see Lee Hunter early.
Yeah.
So.
No doubt. Shout out to Tony DeFan. Said he's a new subscriber here, man. We appreciate you joining the show. My man Fayette Nam in the building. Fayette Nam also with the $1.99 super chat. 2-6. Let's go. I love the picks. Gems in the making. Yes, indeed. Hey, man, look. We talked about, somebody said it in the chat. This is something we discussed, Brad. You just said it a minute ago talking about EJ having to play rookies. It's on Dave now. Because I think that the giving up the play calling was multifaceted. I do not just think it was because of offensive woes or wanting to start to build up your guys, right? Similar to what they do. And I look, it is my hope that Brad Izzik becomes the first of a long succession of guys that, like they did in Philly, whenever Nick Sirianni gave up play calling, and then you had Shane Steichen, you know what I'm saying? And then Kelvin Moore. And then now, the guy that they just fired and bringing in someone else. But the point is that you start that, cycle of guys that you want to bring in and, or build and, grow from within. That said, I think this also was a Dave Canales move for defense as well. You're not going to be able to get that off this time. If you got a guy that, if Jackson is absolutely crushing the competition in camp, look, think about the line of coaching that Dave Canales comes from, right? Once upon a time, the Seattle Seahawks went out and paid Matt Flynn, not a max deal, but a deal that was, good for a guy that just threw 6 touchdowns against the Bears to, in a playoff game. I think it was a playoff game. I could be wrong. But Matt Flynn ended up getting the contract. What ended up happening? Russell Wilson beat him out.
Third round pick.
100%. So my thing is that if Nick Scott, not Nick Scott, I ain't trying to shoot at Nick at all. But what happens if Nick Scorton would have outplayed Pat Jones? You see it every day in camp. You see it during, practices during the week or whatever. Is he going to sit for that long? Is it just going to be rotational, or are you just going to go with the guy that, has the experience? No, absolutely not. Now, I know that you have to rein that in to some degree, so you can't just go full throttle like, yes, all rookies, right? No, of course not. But I think the days of seeing that happen are over. And a lot of that is because Dave's going to have his hand on every facet of this team. And I love that. I do. I think that's going to be a very, very important thing. So the Jackson Kawatch pick, I'm going to go ahead and just say, for me, this was another A, Brad. I don't think it's, overstating it to say that this is another A. So I'm giving it an A.
I will give this a for special teams and the positives. I'll give it a B. I mean, this kid still has he got some growing to do, but for as far as playing wide open, head on fire, I mean, he's got an excellent dip on rushes.
Mm-hmm.
He can get to the quarterback. He sheds blocks really well, and ever since I saw Luke Kuechly play, that sideline speed, if a linebacker doesn't have that, I don't want him. And he got it.
I feel you. So my overall grade, and this is not counting undrafted free agents, I'm going not A+, but A. This was an A draft. I said to you, Brad, I think this may turn out to be one of the more important drafts in the history of this franchise because of the precedent that it sets. Because now you've got a method. And look, this is the fruit of what I had talked about before, right? I'm going to go back to the 2023 draft when we took Bryce Young #1 overall, right? And yes, he flamed out his first year. And yes, we burnt through coaches. And we had a lot of roster changes. And he got benched. But from 2023 to now 2026, we've essentially had one person behind center every single year. You do that, you can do this. So that's why I was saying that even if Bryce didn't succeed necessarily, right, to the level that we would like to see, it's still a win for me because you stabilized the most important position on a football team so that you can go out and make moves like this. So that when you do go get the guy that you really need, now you're talking about hoisting Lombardis. Notice, plural, Lombardis. So this was a beautiful draft for me, man. This was a flat out A for me. What's your grade?
Mine is a B+, just based on value. We didn't really do a grade for Will Lee. That one I would say is like a C+, just based on production. I do like his aggressiveness, but he's got a long way to go as far as being coached up. He's a guy that I don't think it will hit immediately, but by year 2, year 3, he's going to be a dog. It's going to be reckoned with. So I would give it, I would say a B+. And my main reasoning is just the value, man. I mean, you do a versus like where a guy was ranked, pre-draft or, consensus board and where we picked him. And if you just go down the first 6 picks, man, like Monroe Freeling, pre-draft ranked 18, we took him 19. Lee Hunter, 45, we got him at 49. Chris Brazell, 57, we got him at 83. Will Lee, 119, we got him at 129. This is where it gets ridiculous. Sam Hec projected 80, we got him at 144. Zak Wheatley projected 88, we got him at 151. I don't understand why they aren't leading every show. I get small market, whatever, but they should be leading every show this morning on how we fleeced the draft and we got guys that fell who were ball players, who were nitpicked, and they found super small, to me, non-consequential things for them to drop, and they landed right in our laps, and we ready.
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think happens. Here's what happens. And look, I don't know that if they have our show on in the building. I don't know if any player or any coach or anybody like that. But what you just said right there, I'm clipping and I'm putting out today because that needs to be said. Because now, here's the task at hand. the people that y'all do talk about very often, like Dallas, like Green Bay, like the Rams last year, dog them. That's it. Dog them. We become the story by what you do, right? So, yeah, I agree with you. Pat McAfee will talk about it because Pat always show us love, right? Always show us love because he go by his own schedule.
Yeah, he's already had Dan on.
Yeah, sure did. Yeah. The rest of these guys, though, the rest of the shows, they go off of metrics and all this other kind of stuff. Pat, like, look, y'all asked me to come to ESPN. I appreciate you giving me the bag and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. Y'all asked me, not the other way around, right? So, yeah, this should be the motivation that you need, the fact that they're not talking about this. They'll get like, look, the content creators and all that kind of stuff, I told you, man, we do this because we got to have homegrown conversations for the Carolina Panthers because we don't get a lot of, publicity or whatever like that. And boy, do we not have one of the most beautiful, I'm talking, Brad, I was saying this the other day. When I play Madden, and I'm still playing Madden 24, I'm gonna tell you, I'm terrible at Madden, right? But I did the franchise mode, right, and playing with a created quarterback. And I've done this, like I've played for multiple different teams on this game. There is no stadium like Bank of America. Man, the growl whenever it's a first down or anything like that, like it's incredible. The atmosphere, all of that. We're not a small market team, right? We are by the standards of that. We haven't won a lot, right? But this ain't Jacksonville, man. No shot. I ain't shooting at Duval. This ain't Jacksonville, bro. This ain't Kansas City. Kansas City became big because they got personalities. The NFL wants Xavier Legette to be a superstar. If he hits, then we will start becoming a story. A lot of it would be because of him. The NFL loves Bryce Young. They want him to become a superstar, right? We don't have big personalities on this team. Not yet, anyway. But I feel like some of these guys, the Brazils, the Zak Wheatley, Zak Wheatley, the Lee Hunter, those are your guys that end up becoming the big personalities. I see that coming. So Brad with the B, me with the A. But let me tell you, more importantly, just a hand
B plus, man. 89.9.
B plus. I'm sorry. Just a hand clap for the organization. A absolute hand clap for the organization. Sticking to your guns, moving up when you need it to, letting players fall down where they're supposed to fall, but more importantly, like Brad talked about, drafting guys who were higher on boards and positional value at places you never expected to draft them. And you could have went in another direction. Sam Hec is right there. A lot of people in our community complaining about a tight end. No, we're taking Sam Hec. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So
we got 4 on the roster.
Yep. Yes, indeed. We got 247 watching between 2 platforms. Make sure to smash that like button. We're at 99 likes. I like to get to 100, 110 before we get out of here. I appreciate y'all so much, man. What a fun weekend. The atmosphere. I will say this, it's not just us that's not getting a ton of coverage. This draft didn't have a lot of juice, right? I like the atmosphere in Pittsburgh. They're trying to recreate some great moments that they've had over the years that come off sometime a little corny. I like when things are organic and then you leave it there. Don't try to recreate something that, an organic moment created. It's like when somebody tries to retell you a story that somebody said something funny, but the way they say it is just like, it don't come off the same, right? Drew Pearson, a few years ago, goes up to the podium, and I think they were maybe in Philly, and goes up to the podium and starts, razzing the crowd or whatever. And he's like, the 5-time, NFL champion Dallas Cowboys or whatever. And it was crazy. And so now you're bringing in, international people. You're bringing in Pat McAfee, who I love Pat, but I'm like, keep Pat out of some stuff. Just like Stephen A. I don't need to see Stephen A. on Get Up. Let Stephen A. stay his ass on First Take. I don't need to see him everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like I keep myself on Mint Street Mondays. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to see me everywhere. It for good reason, right? I don't want to wear out my voice. I don't want to wear out my welcome. I might say something, on another platform that you might look at me crazy about. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to stay my behind right here, right? That said, there really wasn't a lot of juice in this draft, man. No big stories other than, Jeremiah Love getting picked. I was actually surprised. there was a couple of big surprises for me. I was shocked where Blake Miller got drafted because that was Brad's guy, and I ain't never trying to give Brad no credit. I'm always trying to shoot at Brad.
No credit.
So I was shocked by that. I was shocked that David Bailey got taken second overall. That was a big shock. I was absolutely flabbergasted at the Vikings taking Caleb Banks at 18. I was flabbergasted. But yeah, other than that, wasn't really a whole lot. Our draft. I always watch for our portion of it, and our portion of it was a lot of fun, right? For me, especially after pick 19. Like pick 19, obviously because I had the whole mock about Jacob Rodriguez, and I made myself look like a dumbass. But other than that, like it was a fun weekend, and just like my man JP Tate said, who's been killing it in the chat today as well. Less is more. Told him less is more, man. There's plenty of us. You know what I'm saying? That's what Jay said anyway. Anyway, all right. Let's move on to these hidden gems potentially, man. The undrafted free agents in this draft, Brad. I'm going to be honest with you. I ain't going to sit here and act like I know all these dudes because I don't. But we did get quite a few undrafted free agents. So I'm going to let you take it away. One that I do know, Haynes King. The other one, Isaiah Smith. The rest of it is all on you. Who's your favorite?
I really do like Haynes King. He is, he's a mobile quarterback, really good accuracy. I saw him truck a couple guys, when they played Carolina. Like he's definitely got some things he's got to work on, which, why they didn't draft him, but he is a good prospect. I definitely like him much better than what we've had in camp the last couple of years. Devontae Smith is, he's a tough guy to evaluate. He's had some injuries, some issues, man, but he's very aggressive. He's a big guy, taller corner. I really like Isaiah Smith. He's a little undersized, but he's a terror off the edge. But out of all of these, man, I don't know. I really like Haynes King, and I really like Aaron Hall, man. I mean, he's a guy. I would say him better. I like him better than Jaden Crumedy, who we took out of Kentucky a few years ago or a couple years ago. He can make a little noise, but yeah. After those four, I had to be honest. Not much knowledge on them.
Yeah, me either. Most of y'all in the chat would have to tell me. Hey, somebody called you Negro Damas in the chat. I don't know if you know that person. Somebody said Patty Franchise. Is that your girl?
No, that's my homie, Pat. The one I be talking about. I be telling you about. That's my homie.
Okay. What's good, Pat?
Yeah.
Salute to the real. Yeah, I like Haynes King as well, man. Y'all can stop them Cam Newton comparisons. I've been seeing that out there, so you can go on with that.
I have been seeing that. I'm like, man, what are they talking about?
Yeah, nah. And then you didn't even catch you didn't catch the Aaron Hall, man. When you said that, I was like, I like. Come on, tell me.
Yeah, I caught it, man.
Okay, all right, man.
I moved on through. I persevered.
All right. Appreciate it.
I like somebody said, they like to see Jake make a couple picks. I did like that.
Yeah.
Because he came out there and I got hype. I was like, daylight coming, you got it alone.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
I see what you did there.
Did you see it?
Yep. Yeah, the Aaron Hall one is that one's interesting. I don't know a whole lot about him, but here's what I will say. I hope that of all of these undrafted free agents that we did go out and procure, and the ones that are guaranteed and confirmed, especially Haynes King, Haynes is the one that I would hope against hope that he is going to, translate, because, buddy, if BY goes down, it's Kenny Pickett season. How you feeling about that? I can tell you how I feel, but I wouldn't want to say it under because there's children in the chat.
I mean, he's a Super Bowl champion.
Oh my gosh!
Listen, I'm not gonna hear too much of that, Mr. Sam Darnold fan over here,
bruh.
Maybe you put Phil in the right, not Phil. What's on Phil? Maybe you put Kenny in the right offense, and have an all-time defense that don't let other teams get 1 but 2 yards a game, he can come out there and pass for 15 touchdowns and win a Super Bowl.
I ain't gonna flame you about Sam today. I'm gonna let you live because I ain't gonna lie. You was in your bag today. You deserve a raise, so I'm gonna let you live today so you can get that off. But I'm hoping that Haynes is a developmental piece that turns out. So we'll get to see him. Look, we played the first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game, so we definitely get to see it in real time. So get to see him, Chris Brazell, maybe. That'll be fun. If I'm him, I'm just like, hey, run a 9. I'm throwing it as deep as I can. Pause.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, we about to score some touchdowns.
Period.
They are not going to be able. Hey, they're going to be like, hey, they cut me and I threw 5 touchdowns in preseason. I know that.
Tony DeFan said Haynes King is not a good thrower of the football, with a capital "ot," not a good thrower of the football. So there's that.
Oh yeah, he be out there trying to run that Tom Osborne 90s offense. You know what I'm saying? With a quarterback. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's why people's like, oh, he got that Cam Newton in him. No, but he does run a lot. So
yeah, it would be interesting to see if any of these guys. For my money, I think that this year, because I saw somebody in the chat said earlier that they wanted Haynes King and Jackson Kawatch, and they ended up with both. One they drafted, the other one they got, as a UDFA. I think this year's Thornton / Coker, for my money, would be Jackson Kawatch. So it wouldn't necessarily be an undrafted guy, but a guy that might as well be picked in the 7th round. That's what I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to make a big difference, especially on special teams. Certain guys, you jump in before you even see anything, but with his numbers and his athleticism, I mean, some guys are, a blank slate, and I think he's the kind of guy that can come in and, I mean, you've got access to 2 of the best linebackers to ever, put a helmet on, and actually 3, you know what I mean? And so you can come in, take this coaching, and make yourself into a guy that's, like I said, we were talking about earlier, I mean, just too good and too big of a deal for them to overlook you.
Yeah, that's what you would hope. So, yeah, good scouting, good everything, man. Another round of applause for the Carolina Panthers for their masterful job with the draft, man. Another one in the books. I'm looking forward to OTAs. I'm looking forward to rookie minicamp. I'm sure we'll get some videos from people like Mike K, who eventually, a friend of the show, will be on with us at some point Mike K will likely be someone that will be on with us during the summer, kind of filling us in on what things are, what he's seeing. Because like I said, when you mentioned that take from earlier, look, that one shocked me when he said on the Process and Blue podcast, he said JT Sanders was the best player in camp, and it wasn't even close. So I'm like, hey, I need to see that. Trying to see it.
That's what we were talking about last night, though, man. Like, the fact that we can't go to camp this year is really gonna suck this year.
Only one more year, man. We in there next year. We in there like swimwear next
year.
year.
Oh yeah, like swimwear.
Yeah. So, and we'll be, man. I'm telling you, like that week, I'm taking vacation. You know what I'm saying? Like that first opening week of training camp, I'm taking vacation. I'm down there every day. Every day we're gonna be live streaming from there. Brad will probably be there with me, but Brad will be invisible on camera unless he want to reveal himself. But he might be in that shiesty. Brad might be in that because he's getting indicted, so he got to Brad was with Pooh Shiesty when he did that mess. So I'm how you doing with that, by the way? I'm saying,
man, don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
How you doing with that, by the way?
You know what I'm saying? And you know it's gonna be hot out there
all day. Yes, sir. Shout out to Sean watching from overseas. John, Mad Invisible Brad breaking it down for us on a Monday. Love tuning in, guys. Man, we love you, man. Appreciate you, man. King Whitley said his favorite pick was Will Lee. So salute to Will Lee. I see a lot of new people in the chat today. I appreciate y'all being here. Dizzy Lizard said good content. I appreciate you, man. My dog Fayette 926. I saw Double O Kane, your favorite person in here earlier. Yeah, he's still in here somewhere. Tony DeFan, new subscriber. We appreciate you. Obviously, some of the faithful like Rob Blake, who was on the stream with me the other day. I very much appreciate you and Steve-O for coming through. My man J-Rock that came through as well. Tyler Brown, I saw you pulled up. JP Tay won the chat today, in my opinion, man. He came with the heat. And then Pantherhead 13. T. Thompson always with the caps. T. Thompson be like, yo, what up? I'm like, what's good? So, yeah, you know what time it is, man. But it's another great show, Brad. Another absolutely great show, man. You got any parting words before we get out of here?
Yeah, man. First of all, I don't know why you expect it to get better, but I still allow it to get under my skin. So, I had a lot going on Saturday, and I tuned in because I looked to see who we had drafted, and I seen that, we had the 5th round pick coming up. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. So turn on NFL Network. They come on, it's Rich Eisen, and they're all sitting there. And I'm like, all right, man, let's go. And they show a Texas A&M receiver that gets drafted. And then they start talking about some ancillary nonsense that makes no bearing on what's going on. And they go to commercial. Cool. I got to see Domino's new shite pizza that they put out, or Pizza Hut and their, frozen dough and how it, connected to NFL coverage. And then they come back and I'm like, all right, here we go. And they start showing this montage of notable 5th round picks. And they show Puka Nacua highlights and what's the tight end for San Francisco? George Kittle highlights.
Yeah.
And then they go back to commercial. And I see a woman open the refrigerator and she's got her cold dog food. And I'm like, man, seriously. And then it's like, pick is in Sam Hec. And then they come back from commercial and I just turned it off. And I was like, man, what are we doing here?
Yep. Right over top of
We are here to cover the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing, people are always, because I'll see some comments I didn't like about the Lee Hunter pick where they were just like, man, Carolina was panicking because, J-Rod was gone. And so, and I'm like, these teams aren't panicking. Like, y'all don't understand the in-depth nature of the way they scout. And I'll give 2 examples. The last 2 things I'm going to say.
Go ahead.
Dude, we all wondered what was going on with Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, this kid was a potential Heisman, number 1 pick overall quarterback.
Yeah.
And he had no zip on his ball. He struggled to get passes out. And then he just completely wilted and looked beat up. Come to find out, the guy has a cyst on his spine, which he's been playing through all season. He's going to have surgery. And it'll be like a 2 to 3 week process. But like all these teams knew that. And then if that's not enough of you believing that teams do their coverage and scouting, I was listening to Nate Tice on a podcast, and he was talking about when Jameis Winston was in school, part of his positive evaluation was they were saying he was a coachable player because all the bullshit he dealt with under Jimbo Fisher at Florida State. And they were like, if this guy can stay positive and deal with Jimbo Fisher, he's going to be really coachable, and he's going to be a guy that can lead a team. So, I mean, dude, they dive in wholesale, and it's not any kind of, oh, man, we didn't get who we wanted or our guy's not there, and we're just going to start throwing darts at a board. Now, maybe GMs that aren't worth their salt do that, but I believe we have one in Dan Morgan, and you can tell by his press conference and the press conferences they have with the individual scouts, that's something they have never done before. No other team has ever done. We're the first team to ever do that. And these teams dive in and they've got a plan. And our guys got a plan. I've believed in Dan since he took over for Fitterer. A lot of people had a lot of hangups. But, man, it just when you have these former player GMs all the way from Ozzie Newsome to John Lynch, like these guys just seem to be a little more even-keeled, and they look for certain guys, and they know certain guys, and they've been in the locker rooms, and they just, they seem to even franchises out. And I'm glad that we've got Dan with the scouting and with the experience, and we got my man Brant Tillis with the money. Because you think about all of the stuff we've got to deal with in the next 3-4 years. We got 4 or 5 guys that's going to command contracts, and we've just brought in guys to replace them if need be.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like I said, man, I just like the way they've set things up. I like the way they draft. I like the way that they scout, and keep pounding. Keep
freaking pounding. Shout out to my man Jay Grizzly with the $5 super chat. Let's go. He said the same thing you said, Brad. He said, keep pounding. Oh, I feel like I'm going to have to. Yo, what up, my 82? J-Rock in the building. My man, 828, stand up. What's good? Man, look, somebody talking about maybe, just maybe, undrafted free agent Haynes King might be the biggest signing. So this is going to be where I sign out because I already know what that means. That's coded, right? And you probably
let me ask you this really quick.
Sure.
What do you think about all the people that are saying with the additions to offensive line and receiver that they're also doing this so that your boy Bryce doesn't have any excuses and so that they can make a decision on what they're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I look, even if they didn't do all of this, I think that would be the case anyway. They picked up the 5th-year option, sure, and they're going to sign it after, the draft situation. But, I mean, if Bryce doesn't – because now the thing is consistency, right? Adam Thielen, I had a clip somewhere where Adam Thielen was talking to somebody on a podcast recently, and he said when Bryce first came in, he realized, like, he's an even keel guy. Like, everything's just kind of like mellow. He doesn't really get, super excited, never gets too turned up about anything. But the one thing that he knew he had to change was it was okay for him to take over. They drafted you number 1 overall for a reason. And we talked about that ad nauseum, right? When you play for Nick Saban, turned up guy. When your offensive coordinator is Bill O'Brien, turned up guy. You know what I'm saying? You playing for a lot of different coaches where they take on the personality of the team. Not in the league, buddy. When you come here, it's got to be you. So imagine my surprise when I see him getting fired up and yelling at them in the New Orleans after the New Orleans game, even though they could very well, because see, here's the thing. When you try to lead, especially from a passionate perspective, you always thinking about something. If you're a guy like Bryce, you're thinking about something that they can hold on you, that you could say, they could be like, well, what about you? What about me? Right? How did I get here? What kind of capital have I already gained with you guys? Well, I'll tell you. We crapped the bed with New Orleans, but I put up 448 against the Atlanta Falcons, who, by the way, since I've been back from being benched, has never beat me. That's my capital. That's who I am. Remember when Alec Baldwin walked in on the beginning of Glengarry Glen Ross? One of my favorite, if you're a salesperson like me, one of my favorite opening scenes of any movie ever. Took the little watch off, flashing in his face. You know what I'm saying? This watch right here costs more than your car. You know what I'm saying? They sent me down here as a lifeline to tell you, and look, you can say the same thing for the receivers, anybody that drops a pass, anybody that misses a block, anything like that. I am your lifeline. When I go into these meetings, I'm talking to them at your behest. Why? Because if I go in there and say the real, what's the real? Fire your F&A, because a loser's always a loser. So if you want to say it's for Bryce, cool. But it's just as much for the guys that are suiting up beside him. That's what I got to say. And to the person who said that maybe Haynes King might be the biggest signing. Like I said, I know what that means. Where was you at when I was with the offensive line? No center. No center. No wide receiver. Powder Merck. Can Merck. What you talking about?
One football.
Period.
One field.
No
one
packet.
pillar.
No.
You ready to go night?
Trying to tell you, man.
All right.
Ain't nobody in here challenging that man on the roster, man. Period. That's on P. So do with that what you will. It's been another great one, Brad. We did it. We did it, bro. We getting out of here. I love y'all. I love y'all. This has been a great show. Brad, I'm going to talk to you soon. The rest of the chat, I'm going to holler at y'all. Miss Rand, if you're still out there, got the wrench on the way. Shout out to the faithful. Shout out to the OCs, my original cats. $1.99 per month if you want to join. But more importantly, man, y'all know what to do. It's Mint Street Mondays. It's John Farmer. It's the invisible one, Brad. Keep freaking pounding. 100.